Hello. Okay, all connections are good. Hello, Seth.
Oh, hello?
Yes, Seth. Hello.
Can, can you hear me?
Yes, Seth. I can hear you.
All right. Um, I know we had to wait a little bit for the Yap-In to could you explain what happened, right?
Ask your question again.
I know we had to wait a little while before we did one of these because you said there's something that came up on your end.
Yes, life.
Yeah, I understand.
That's the short answer. I'm not gonna do the long answer. Just life.
Oh, you don't have to. You don't have to.
That can't be the only thing you wanted to ask.
No, 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 no. That's not the only thing. Um, I I was debating if I wanted to make a thread about this, but I feel like it's so short and like the shelf life of it is not gonna last that long. But
Yeah.
if you are aware of Null slash Josh of PV Farms, lately he's been having a little bit of a meltdown over VTubers.
That's not the reason why he has that meltdown.
Uh, is it because of the new model
N-
or
no, no, no. That's not the reason why he has meltdowns over VTubers and fictional women.
okay?
So, the simple answer is Josh has always been a Spurg. Joshua Moon has always been a Spurg, and is a demonstration of the nice way to say this requires using a slur, and I'm not really in the mood of dealing with Twitch's bullshit, so I'm going to use the version that we used to use back when YouTube functioned as a real website. And here's what we call a cow tipping AIDS pig. That's
Oh,
the simple answer. The long answer, ironically enough, was discovered, or rather, was rediscovered again, when the Almighty Lolly, alongside a couple of other figures that are fans or models or managers of other Oshis, rediscovered the material because of the fact it became relevant. I need to go scroll and go find. Pose the question.
okay. Uh, what did you say?
I need to go find the lore in question. There is an entire section of the lore that is important to understanding the reason why he's angry as shit. Blockland, 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 Blockland. Okay.
Alright, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Yeah, I had to change to my headset. Sorry.
Yeah, the game crashed. Okay. The simple answer is he's what we call a cow tipper. The long answer is a thread post that exists on a website called Lounge 96, originally known as Blockland, where even Joshua cannot be able to run away from the content that his website, Huey Forms, has been known for.
Hmm. Oh, I know about that post.
You see, chat, the simple understanding and explanation is that Joshua Connor Moon represents the mindset of the modern day Redditor. And his modern day Redditor behavior implicitly repeats itself across multiple websites. As the post explains, the Kiwi Farms is an extension of his personality, and no facet of it exists without his approval. How did we get here? The simple answer is as simple as what was discovered and talked about on the platform. Assuming other people didn't pay attention to it and didn't know, the old material, which has existed for years, is as follows. On the way home from work today, I thought of something. I knew a really pretty lesbian, age 24, that was undergoing a lore change surgery. It occurred to me that I'd always wished I was a girl, but her love change surgeries are just genetic mutilations, and even if they were 100% authentic, you wouldn't get to live that life. You wouldn't even know what it's like to grow up as a girl. Then it occurred to me that the same thing can be said a billion times over. You never get to experience what it's like to be a girl, what it's like to be a girl in the 15th century, what it's like to be an Egyptian pharaoh and have people idolize you as a god. You'll never get to know what it's like to be black in the inner city, having to deal with drugs and gang pressure. You'll never get to experience even a fraction of the vast majority of life experiences that have and are possible for a human being. You get your pretty little chunk of humanity over a misery quantity of living time. That's it. Okay, it's not funny. Seriously, stop using male pronouns. You're not insulting her, and you're confusing the hell out of me when I read your posts. I have explained the logic behind feminine pronouns a dozen times now. There's no reason to be oblivious to it. It's aggravating as forget because every single person who doesn't like stalking calls her a he, despite the fact that we refer to people in English as the gender they prefer to be known as. This is known as being polite. Sonic Fangirl is a pre-op trans love-you-all, and I still refer to him as a she because that's just how the language loving works. There's no need to be a starfish to people. Stalking is either, or wants to be, a little Asian girl. Even if nothing else about her appeals to you as a person, you should be at least able to respect this fact and treat them with the courtesy that you would want to treat them in such a scenario. Second post, May 13th, 2011. First post, May 21, 2011. The simple understanding that you need to know, because these pieces of materials are coming from the same person. Joshua Moon has a vendetta against anything that he could perceive as what most people would call woke, but really is just as simple as oikophobia, progenerating itself in the form of his resentment of the fact that at one point in time it has occurred to him that he wanted to be trans.
Oh.
That's it. The oikophobia has metastasized itself in the form of his ego and his mindset completely going off the fucking kilter in 2020 during COVID. That's it. This has been the case for years. It's why when it was brought up to Ross of Stop Killing Games on his channel, as he was addressing the follow-up of the follow-up, the stream he did after his video having to debunk provider.
I don't like that.
Red bar, red bar. red bar, 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 F. And here comes the interconnection. Green bars. Sustainment of green bars. Wonderful. And it should be fine again. Anyways. His hatred of transgenderism is oikophobia, made large from 2020 as he began to lose his fucking brain about whether or not he would catch COVID and making it site-wide culture to just simply shit on whatever Josh does not fucking like himself personally. It doesn't matter if you're doing it as a joke, because one example is where I just simply put a pride flag inside of my profile handle as a joke, and his motherfucker unironically believed that my account must have been transgender, or was in support of the gays. Hashtag #TramTradeSnark. It could be as simple as you pushing back against him and making fun of him for being retarded and full tilting because he does not and cannot and will not ever allow himself to look like a fool, as was discovered
He is.
by both the Almighty Olali and most recently by the Dragon's Treasure. When they emphatically told him that he's acting like a fucking lolcow because he is acting like a lolcow. Quote, the slippery slope steps directly from lolicon is fine to actually men are supposed to want to fuck teenage girls as soon as they hit puberty. It is human nature, both lolicons and biopedos say this. You are what you eat, all I ask is be careful what you tolerate. This is him getting upset about Saba's premiere, by the way.
Yeah.
All of these things, and anything that you can ever find on majority of the platform, is apparently and exaggeratedly in the format of Josh does not like this, therefore it is now site culture to embarrass and mock and antagonize people about this. Welcome, Alex. You're not late at all. You only just began. We already had one disconnect. That's the actual truth. In most situations, that is the actual truth. Once again, it is a case of all of the normal, regular ones getting upset and mad again. But this is old news. But of course, most people are not old fags, they're new fags. So instead of actually knowing what the fuck they're talking about, and actually knowing why Josh has the site culture that he does, after years and years and years of either creating feeders, like Ricada, only for them to get off the leash, or for years of having site-wide culture that has slowly become even more oikophobic than it already was, to the point where nobody can talk to anybody about anything because everyone just simply accepts this to be the case. You have Josh and his history now on another website as the explainer for all of his background and why he is the way he is. So, the post that I just read from you came from Blockland, where he used to go under the name of IBAN, Ikervat, Not Important Member, and IBAN X and IBAN Z. Because back in the day, Josh would say things like June 13th, 2008, where the only thing that turns him on is rape. And then, when he would say other things, when he tried to reinvent himself during City RPG around the time of Kony 2012, where people asked him if he was a actual brony or he's just hopping on the troll mail, he then said things like he has a thing for lesbian and tomboys, as well as the fact that he would have private conversations where he would talk about the depths of his fetishes and the depravity of said fetishes, such as when they posted the caps that ended up getting him to want to quit the forum, being him wanting to jerk off to Necropar Shota, people
Oh,
calling him on this because they thought that he hated furries, and Joshua emphatically saying, looking at cat girls, Nekos, is not the same thing as being interested in furries, where people would call him on it, spot on, and call him out for wanting to have sexual relations with half cat boys.
yeah, just have boys he likes.
His hatred of his mother, the fact that his house would burn down, and a bunch of other things that would then lead to the spin-off of 8chan, which would then lead to the spin-off of the CWC forums, which would then evolve into the Huey Farms forums, which would then allow the website to evolve over the time of every single bit of information and detail that was then responsible for him creating Mad at the Internet as a way to cope about these things, and eventually would spiral into his obsession with transgenderism and sexuality after the 2022 hack, which was succeeded after the 19 hack and the Christchurch shooting video that would be posted on Huey Farms, as well as his hatred of all things censorship, as he actually got his real taste of being antagonized because of them trying to stop people like Keffels and Kye Jun-hyun, the woman who was responsible for trying to get the site taken down with Drop Kiwi Farms, as to what would create his non-stop hatred of transgenderism as a whole, as well as his hatred of people in general, because he does not like the fact that his own standards get used against himself. Because, as it was discovered by PPP of the Kino Casino, the same rules that he tries to live by, he cannot live by. So, in total, the answer for why Null is like this is oikophobia. He hates people. He hates people that don't glaze him. He hates people that don't participate in his website. He hates people who refuse to join the social mob. And he's triggered because he doesn't like the fact that women like formerly Gura, now Saba, exist in a way where they're able to play on the like of their audiences. Because he would much rather have the power to stop you from existing if you do not exist to make him money. So, he's a cow tipper who uses other people and his website as an extension to allow his cow tipping to exist, which has always been the case. However, he has become more incentivized and more desirable to being crazy because after getting fucked with multiple times by transgender users, whether for reasons that are fair or for reasons that very obviously were fucking bullshit, is now just his stock answer. Transgenders don't exist. I'm not saying the other word. Transgenders shouldn't exist because they are clearly just men trying to trick you, because once upon a time I wanted to be trans, and also he desperately wanted to be able to just jerk off to his Necropar porn. That's it. That's the actual tea.
I was aware of the forum post. I was not aware of the transgender confessional.
Well, reading the forum post would inform you about that.
Well, I think I told you the situation I was in a couple years ago. I think it was 2022, where he got very upset with me for saying, like, I don't think these VTubers are like enabling pedos shit or whatever.
Realistically, yes and no. It's the same argument that people use about transgenders that they're using about VTubers. I don't blame this on VTubers. I blame this on people who are very, very boring. Also, hello, Alex. I was starting to start up Iron Brigade, but it crashed when I alt-tabbed. I don't put that on VTubers.
The enemy.
The VTubers are not the reason why that exists. At all points in times that are relevant, the majority of what's causing people's hatred or desire or lack thereof of VTubers in connection to these things is that the majority of people, they look at VTubers that are popular and then they project an argument onto all VTubers
And their fans.
and their fans. So, when Xanderhall, when good old Alexander, chooses to make a video saying the problem with edgelord VTubers, which is basically his way of saying my problem with Kirsch and Pippa, he then puts that problem onto all VTubers when really he doesn't even have a problem with edgelord VTubers because, newsflash, almost all VTubers are some form of edgelord. What he actually has a problem with is I don't like that this fictional woman's opinion has more weight than my opinion, which is the same thing that Null doesn't like. It's not just jealousy, but keep the argument simple and short. It's not jealousy, it's not anxiety, it's not the fact that he has to compete against people that will be able to pull more attention onto a live stream than he can be able to get on a regular traffic post outside of the circles of even the most popular parts of Kiwi Farms during the biggest kind of happenings that are relevant to the internet. It is pure oikophobia. He hates people. He hates you if you're not giving him money. If you're not something that he can milk as a lol cow, if you're not somebody who's willing to remain dumb, remain stupid, not do anything to improve your life, not change, if you leave the room and you refuse to allow them to define you, and you improve your life, like the irate gamer, once upon a time, and you don't remain something that can be infinitely milked, like DSP, you are a problem. If you're transgender, you're a problem, and you're also going to corrupt the children. If you're a VTuber, you're not just a problem, and you're going to corrupt the children. If you choose to explicitly make your avatar any way where people will have to answer questions to those that don't know what an Oshi is, so people who are outside of the fandom, people who are outside of the culture, and people who clearly do not understand that every single person who's involved is a grown adult woman who is explicitly doing it because that's the brand that they would like to build, or it is itself a filtering tactic, the same way people bringing up Kiwi Farms itself is a filtering tactic. He is getting filtered hard. There's no other way to be nice about it. When you understand his viewpoint on these things, he fills in his viewpoint about everyone. So
I figured as much since I was active on Kiwi Farms a fair amount, and like I said, he got on my case for quote unquote defending VTubers and not agreeing with him that they're all pedophiles or daily pedo shit. Like, because like I said, these are all adults. If there was like actual child exploitation going on, I would understand. But these are all adults who chose to make their avatars look that way and, lean into that stuff.
it's much more likely that more of this evolution of his hatred of VTubers is actually an evolution of the fact that even though the website is popular amongst drama websites, it is a website that only really has its popularity due to the controversies of constantly being pushed on and off of the ClearNet. And unfortunately, even amongst his own members, there are people that are clearly more fans of the people in question that are being discussed half the time, because there is a active, lively board for both Pippa and Kirsch that he wishes was just a forum that was dedicated to shitting on them, but it's not.
It's not. That's the funny thing. When I checked KF not too long ago, There is a VTuber section in the off-topic board, and it's like positive. Sometimes they criticize them, but it seems like they're actual genuine fans of these VTubers.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also had like someone else get upset with me saying that oh, her model is literally CP. How could you say that there's nothing wrong with it? It's like, because there's nothing wrong with it. Who's gonna get arrested for that?
Is this somebody who you know personally?
Kind of.
What's kind of mean?
I don't know them that well. We aren't that close. And most I'll say is that he's from Europe, so I could see why he says that.
Okay.
The whole people like, oh, it's immoral and it's, I don't get the moral part.
What do you mean by the moral part?
Well, it's like immoral to make characters that way because it's gonna make people do like heinous things or something.
So this person lives in Europe,
Yeah.
and their opinion is Islam is right about women.
No.
That is in fact the argument of Islam is right about women. If you make anything of a type of alluring sin, it will cause people to sin. If you have women out in public that dress in a way where they are not dressed from head to toe in a single line of fabric, the curves of their bodies will cause men to assault them. That is Islam is right about women.
No, he's not. He's not Islamic anyways. He's like just like European guy, kind of basic European guy,
I'm
and
not
like,
I'm not saying that he's Islamic. I'm saying that he believes that his opinion is that VTubers would be equivalent to haram in the eyes of a person that sees a problem with that content, which is the root argument of Islam is right about women. That women are a problem, that women are sinful and by nature, and that you have to control them.
I see. But the angle I was getting at was how Europe does ban like any kind of like questionable anime content, but they ignore real cases of child abuse.
Yeah, I know.
I'll just say child abuse loudly, but
Yeah, I know. It's half the reason why I even had a controversy back in the day.
really.
Yes, I've talked about this on camera. In fact, this is a part of the Carl lore. The Aki Spark situation is
Uh,
100% a part of the Carl lore.
I think I may not have heard about this, Carl.
Okay, there is a picture that exists of the old Escape Zero mascot that was created by Aki Spark, which is effectively a recolor of Haruko Haruhara of Fully Cooley that was requested by Smug Roko, by Elizabeth, that as his form of revenge, when she tried to fuck all of us over, when the money that was meant to be paid to us as employees and managers of Escape Zero was instead pocketed by herself to use to buy herself a Yu-Gi-Oh deck and a new phone when she was basically still working as the e-girl that everyone has heard about, was working underneath Ian Miles Chong when he was on Exclusively Games, working for the Quartering. I gave him $90 out of my pocket to get him out of a hole after she chose to fuck him over. And that money is what people keep claiming is what I, quote, paid for revenge porn. Because it is an image of my iconography effectively ass fucking this character. With a little troll picture of Remus in the window crying, saying, "It should have been me!" Which is more of a joke on myself than anything else. That was effectively his thank you gift for this money, for which had no strings attached whatsoever. I continue to get shit for it to this day, because there are people who can continue to perpetuate the lie that I paid him for revenge porn, I gave him the money for porn, and I explicitly told him to give me this content. When effectively, he gave me what any artist would as a sign of thank you, which was fan art. Obviously, because of the nature of this content, I cannot put it on the camera. I'm fairly certain I've explained this before.
I probably didn't really remember.
I have several controversies with Wick. You have to open the Book of Carl.
Okay. Open the Book of Carl.
But no, Aki is a German citizen who is working in college. I'm very painfully aware about the rules about not safe for work content, because it was putting his scholarship and his attendance at school at risk, because Elizabeth was spurting it, because when I told her to stop her bullshit, it was responsible for why she would then threaten him, which is why the money was given to him in the first place. He's not the only person I gave money to. Like, that entire time period, money that I gave to people to assist themselves in that situation is the same job that I lost staying up at night to make sure that anybody didn't kill herself. All of that happened during the downfall of her former persona before she started becoming Yokai Rider, working with Ash McGowan again. And that only really got rectified in like the last 2 years. Where can you find a copy of the Book of Carl? It exists on my drive. Basically, collapses of memes and things that I could just tell you about my back history. Anyways, we're talking about something else right now, Wick. More or less, Germans have a very bullshit form of rules surrounding internet content of this capacity, where the German laws apply in such a way where they can be applied strictly on things like Twitter, where most people would just simply be able to ignore them because they would not have the legal precedent to do anything about it. You report the content of somebody who's a German citizen, just like you could inside the UK, according to the laws of the EU, they can take them to jail over that shit. Because the German consulate is cut. Just as much as the UK consulate is cut. Just as much as any ruling party inside of the United Nations is cut. And the European Union is cut. Because they are behind the times. The logic behind them choosing to ban things like, quote, explicit porn in these countries, and at the same time, you're getting jailed for tweets where you have a negative opinion of your British Prime Minister, or your German Prime Minister, or your German chancellors, or your heads of state that are responsible for the debate of laws, and a particular dictatorial member of that ruling party doesn't like the fact that you made a joke about them or a meme about them, which was the biggest problem that haunted Carl Benjamin for years, which is why he then apologized to that fucking tyrant of a woman. These are the laws that basically put people in a bunch of fucking positions where they can't do anything. It happened to Tommy Robinson. It happened to any person who was associated at the time with UKIP. It definitely happened to both Dankula and Sargon because of the fact that they were associated with UKIP. It happened to any person who was considered to be an edgelord in that capacity. Hell, half the reason why channels and content creators like Dr. Ramaricam and the Honey Badgers are still facing forms of being demonetized or deplatformed is not just because of the algorithm fucking them in the ass, but the sheer fact that the majority of this content usually would then result in them possibly going to jail. Because somebody's ass mad on the internet.
Mm.
So, his opinion is nice, but I'm ignoring it because he's German. He does not know what the fuck he's talking about.
He's not German. He's from Norway.
His opinion is discarded even harder. If they live in any area managed by the United Nations or managed by the European Union, and they have opinions about digital millennial copyright on the internet and the rules of age grace inside of those countries, their opinion is automatically discarded if it is an opinion about content that is considered legal and illegal. That's just my hard rule. That's my hard rule. If you are shipping migrants into your country that are then destroying the civility of your citizens and making people say, "Oh yes, we're going to ban the ultra porn. Maybe now they'll stop raping our daughters," your opinion is discarded to me.
Yeah, that is crazy. They banned choking in porn. Can't do that.
It's more than just the porn. I can't have a picture of a anime girl on my wall, but you can have several different people that are bouncing young British girls, young German girls, young Italian girls of any nation, any place where they're accepting migrants from the third world, and effectively being tyrannized by their state for the fact that they call out the fact it's happening, and they then go to jail for the fact that they are telling them, "We would like to stop importing these things." If they come from those countries, I disregard their opinion when it comes to censorship. Their opinion is just not valid. And it's backwards.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on.
um, what was I gonna say? Like, because I've been on the internet so long that I've seen all these cases, people whine about this stuff, and either they're just very hypocritical or end up being a danger to children. I hate to say that.
The internet allows people that are dangerous to society to get free press based on other people that would like to be able to have the ability to escape consequences while also tyrannizing you behind internet anonymity. Stop killing foxes is a relevant point of suggestion because one of the ones that have at least been immediately exposed upon gloating about the fact that by harassing the founder of Save the Foxes resulted in her taking her life, that they have continued, as I had reported when I broke down that story, that they are basically taunting the internet saying, "You can't do shit to me, you can't do shit to me." It doesn't matter if it's pedophiles, it doesn't matter if it's furries that are engaging in zoophilia, it doesn't matter if it is scat fetishists and diaper fetishists, adult baby diaper furs. Boodoo boodoo. Axel Crusher putting in another 50 for a sloppy toppy. Patooey, patooey. It doesn't matter what group is doing it. The internet and sites like, I was going to CQB forums, but technically any website where you can be able to build an audience full of people that have a lockstep culture that is founded on the belief of oikophobia, you can be able to justify and win over anyone for anything at any time at all. It doesn't matter. Most people blame this on Reddit, and it's because the Redditors were able to either get in bed with power that then they could pay for their lifestyle choices. The same way that one of the Williams sisters, I believe it's Serena, married one of the original 3 founders that they have other personed into only being the two original founders of Reddit. The same way that she made the switch up with marrying into wealth and power, that is how most groups have justified their positions on the internet. It is normal. On the current stage of the internet, YouTube Shorts, YouTube as a whole, and TikTok might as well be the same platform. It's the same takes, it's the same people, it's the same opinions, it's the same memes, it's the same culture being posted on top of each other because everyone is trying to go viral, stealing off of other people, and very rarely do you see any innovation from the opinions and people that are coming from their own personal cultures. Because rather than posting things that they like and then talking about things that they're seeing and they know, they are instead reposting popular things and then using popular content as a way to get people to give them tractions on their sites and on their pages. In the case of Twitch, what was the wide open Wild West of the internet has now become a left-wing hovel because of the Kingmaker system, where, this will be coming up later on, depending on whether or not I choose to talk about Mango, where some people, apparently, according to the comments on that YouTube short, from that one person who's got the pin of shame, there are some people that are of the opinion that individuals that can come from a background like the nepotistic class of content creators deserve to exist in a bubble where they can steal from everyone, do whatever they want, take no consequences for their actions of stealing from other people's material. And I don't just mean they took someone's tweet, they took someone's YouTube short, they took someone's YouTube video, freebooted it wholesale on camera while they ate salad. I mean, here's my watch. I mean, these individuals, these people, they decided, alright, I'm stopping this, please. Please stop giving me sloppy toppies. Exo, it's just a joke, bro. Anyways. They steal and freeboot an entire content line from other people. And they steal with the intention of breaking the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And they believe that because Amazon, in its current formation since 2014, has owned the brand of Twitch underneath the house of AWS and of Amazon as a product base, as a way to sell you ads and to increase the ad traffic on the website. What was the last metric I looked at? 2160? 2160. 21,060% of a higher percentile of the highest ad rates to basically inject millions of dollars into the pockets of no-name, literally who broadcasters and streamers that have put in no time and no effort, actively stealing from companies like Viacom, stealing from the great six houses of cable networks, like CBS, ABC, MSN, blah, blah, blah. Stealing from noted literary figures and noted business figures. Stealing from movies in general. Stealing from broadcasting platforms. Under the guise of watch parties that were accepted and allowed during that weird time in COVID where Netflix and other services that had digital streaming services allowed you to stream their movies on the platform within reason and only when you had copyright. And instead using that to just steal wholesale. Stealing pay-per-view movies. Freebooting and even broadcasting porn openly on the platform as a speedrun ban challenge. Women having sex on camera and instead of getting permanently banned, only taking a 7-day restriction. Streamers during COVID that chose to start making OnlyFans or specifically any kind of adult content, using them as the base for allowing the cam whore explosion to even occur, where unironic porn stars, retired or currently working, respect the rules of Twitch more than the common fucking literally who broadcaster who may or may not have a personal connection to either a member or a leader of OTK or to a member or a leader inside of that political hovel of leftists that then allow the platform to exist as a lightning rod for democratic opinions and support. And at any time that you find somebody like myself who broadcasts to that platform, not that their content is dependent upon it, but it's just another place where you can find their work and their material, they're more than likely going to get removed from the website because they will not allow for a confliction of opinion, because the entire website that's dependent on this requires everyone to agree that they're doing the worst kind of business, the worst kind of work, the worst kind of reactions. And the second a single person actually pursuant of the copyright starts punishing the site, even though they fix this by putting in a completely bullshit, not even caring about DMCA strike system with a 3-strike policy, with absolutely no way to communicate this to a case manager unless you're a partnered streamer. So, fucking over the small man in favor of the large man, who's then farming clicks and donos by being on the front page of Livestream Fails, which is the website that actually fucking matters for whether or not you can grow on that site because of the Kingmaker system. They create the non-stop loop that justifies the reason why Ethan Klein should wipe them off the face of the earth. If for no other reason than because it'll make Twitch streamers have to actually react harder, because they can't be bothered to take any kind of relevant knowledge, to do their own research, or to even look into the goddamn views of the people that exist on the sites that they're stealing the content from, to actually even have the tendency to ask if they can even have the content in the first fucking place. Then, the majority of the antics of the people involved, whether or not they care about their constant theft or not, expand that out to every other site that's relevant, assuming that they still exist. And you more or less have the opinion and the point of those groups, justifying it as long as they get a cut of the check as well. So, Twitter, otherwise known as Yitter, because Reddit can't use it to have control of the left-wing opinion, they ban links from the site. They then offshore themselves to Blue Scold, formerly known as Blue Sky, as a way to get away from the Chuds, only for the Chuds to now be the biggest voices, because fun is back on the menu. At minimum, as long as you have large enough of a following. No, Yitter. X. X becomes Yitter. Like that. From Blue Sky, Tumblr follows suit because after deciding that actually we do like porn, they can return to posting inside of their hug boxes and basically fart gassing the worst opinions in general. Subforums on subreddits and then insular Discord communities then become jumping off points for harassment and bullying, as people use Discord's behavior and moderation system as a tool to just say and do unhinged things on the platform, and thus actively work together to increase the amount of top-down power to control other platforms, because the popular figures on said platform set the narrative, and anybody who steps outside that narrative doesn't get access to the content. It's been back on Tumblr for a while. So ultimately, every single one of these websites that aren't Kiwi Farms, that exist on the ClearNet, are some modification of a platform that is basically a battleground for views and opinions. Both the people who are on it and the people who are off of it. Kick is now the new internet landscape for new diverging content and opinions. But that doesn't mean that it's the Wild West like it was during Justin TV. Instead, it is very fairly to say that the landscape of the internet, assuming that you want to pretend that the same 100 websites aren't the same 5 websites stealing from each other, especially when it comes to Digital Millennium Copyright Act and fair use, is effectively the same 5 websites stealing content from each other, and then up to 3 to 5 groups of people, some who have boards, some who don't have boards, and the content creators who may or may not be on them, or the content creators that don't even need to use them, like myself, that simply can get the information because it's going to be posted on Twitter anyways. The ability to talk about the internet happenings, that then allow people to raise awareness based on whether or not you are dumb enough, enough of a lolcow, or enough of a cow tipper to make it go viral. Because you may or may not have a vendetta against the person in question. So instead of people hearing about knowledge because they support their favorite person, it is instead a group of upper class streamers destroying the platforms and thus destroying the goodwill of the internet, while medium-sized figures and larger figures bigger than those figures that are destroying the internet are responsible for keeping the shit held together, because since Matt Pat's in the government, Matthew Patrick is one of the few people that is the face of what is the normal, upstart, white picket fence owning men and women of digital broadcasting. For every MacPat and for every Markiplier, and I think he just now jumped onto it too, PewDiePie, you have 10 Carls, 10 Kirsches, and maybe like 5, if at that, Medicers. And then you have a multitude of literally who, I don't know who they are, and what do you mean you don't know who Glove Shido is? Level of broadcasters. And on that level of broadcasters that you're dealing with, on that insular internet, assuming that the rules are holding together just enough that they've recovered from the era of, I'm forgetting her name. From the era of she who died recently, who used to run YouTube, God rest her soul, Susan Wojcicki. From the era of Susan Wojcicki, you have a handful of sites that they barely respect the rules because they are only publishers and platforms where people post content, and of those that are platforms that are actual publishers, they just simply have become a place that belongs to the group that took them over. So, Minds, it was a experiment, but it doesn't work because it's not popular enough. Odyssey and Rumble exist as alternatives to YouTube, only so that you can put up the content that would not be hostable on YouTube. Gab, owned by the far right. Truth Social, owned by members of the right that are just very pro-MAGA, therefore it is a Trump website. Gamer forums and neo-gaming forums, or rather NeoGAF, it exists as a place where the more moderate of the left exist to have their opinions. Reset Era, an entire platform dedicated to the alt-left and their delusions, which hasn't even been relevant within the last 5 years, because they don't play video games, but you don't have to worry about that because the opinion of Reddit and the opinion of Reset Era is the same, and Reddit pretty much lives on Twitch. Twitch culture is a black hole. Twitch streamers are a black hole of personalities and opinions because their opinions are decided by Reddit and Tumblr. If they ever drop out of lockstep, then they drop out of popularity. And for every person that may or may not be a part of that hovel, so for figures like Kai Cenat and his friend group of AMP, the Poggers community, the WL community that used to belong to people like Gideon, that encircle themselves around content figures like Senna, Extra Emily, NMP, Pokimane, Lil Pichu, and others that are in their orbit, or may or may not be married to them, like Ludwig and Cutie Cinderella, or at least close enough to married as it matters. They are effectively your broadcasting loyalty. despite the fact nobody knows what the fuck they do. And just like the Kardashians, they are only kept in this position because nobody knows exactly what they do for content. And if they did, they would be getting fucked in the ass by every single law under the book possible. And it is only because they exist on a platform whose user base has been shrinking year after year after year, while still perpetuating itself at the top of controversies because they choose to allow a terrorist sympathizer to make content on the platform, and they themselves have people who are inside of that orbiter's view to increase his viewpoints, the talking points of the left, and the talking points of people who are effectively are completely sympathetic to terrorism, as long as it allows them to pick on the people that they want to pick on, to get away with the highest level of delusion and oikophobia towards other people, even in their own party. So, ultimately, at the end of the day, going back to Noel, being surprised by this level of oikophobia across the internet is not a shocking concept, no matter if it's politics or we're talking entertainment. Ultimately, you have multiple groups that hate each other, some legitimate, some because you wouldn't let them get away with literal murder, actively controlling what topic people choose to pay attention to at any one point in time when it's a slow news day. At any other time, the internet is dominated by whatever the most dominant opinion could be at the time. Right now, it just so happens to be that that opinion is a full open litigation on whether or not people should support a platform like Twitch, and whether or not you should support movements such as Stop Killing Games to help you to own your video game content, or a movement like that of Ethan Klein versus Twitch, basically. Because YouTubers are tired of Twitch streamers stealing their intellectual property and being allowed to make 10 times their money by sitting there on camera eating dinner while having absolutely nothing to say about the content that they are freebasing from this website that they clearly don't respect, because none of them put any kind of potential care in their content.
Yeah, they don't care. Have to deal with this with like other artists too that don't care about what they put out.
Ultimately, if in my opinion, the culture not just of platforms like Twitch but of the entire internet is either dead, dying, or at risk.
In danger.
You can't blame it on the Zoomers because the Zoomers aren't responsible for this brain rot. This is clearly what comes from people that are effectively doing the equivalent, I forget what the political word is, but it's the equivalent of the crony capitalism where two people in a country have decided to fuck over the people in their country by choosing to destroy the citizens for a come-up that goes into their pockets. And the fact that there is no shared culture and there are no shared rules of the internet. It was Josh Strife Hayes' opinion when he was going through his own chat, when he was trying to watch or read a game audiobook, where he explained his viewpoint on how he views Pirate Software and Thor's position, or rather Jason Hall's position, on both the movement itself, the internet itself, and how nobody respects the rules of engagement. Once upon a time, there was a time where even internet spurgs understood that there is such a thing as beating a dead horse. But unfortunately, because of, I would say maybe content creators like Chud Logic, not rage baiters, and not farmers, and not shit posters, but specifically a type of broadcaster that used to exist, like the content creators that used to farm incel communities, like Mouthy Buddha, where there is no such thing as mercy. The example he used was the old example of when two factions would go to war and they would have a battle, they would respectfully allow both sides to collect their dead to be able to bury them out of respect and remorse. And this does not exist in the era of the internet. It's the reason why we don't like debate boards. There relatively is no chance to have a joined culture when the culture of one side is, I will lie about you and then I will laugh and make money watching my lies put you in the poorhouse, and I would just like to play video games and possibly be able to have my fan art. Is it possible you can stop trying to destroy the world because you are greedy and you want more money? This nature of culture doesn't exist the same way Twitch culture doesn't exist, or YouTube culture doesn't exist, or even Twitter or TikTok culture doesn't exist, because there is no agreed upon definition of the rules of engagement. This can firmly be blamed on the left, but ultimately, everybody's inside of a hole of oikophobia. Nobody's able to see eye to eye with each other because nobody's able to go on to broadcast. The left doesn't do debates because they have already lost their seated ground. So they have to speak from a position of only choosing to debate people who are basically known figures. They are clout sharks and ultimately size queens. Most of the people in the middle that are undefined to any side, political or otherwise, are of the mindset of no turd twice. Namely, if we're going to talk about subject matter, we're going to talk about the subject matter once and only once, and anybody else who's missed out on it and doesn't have the context, they're not going to learn. Because what happens when we tell people about this is they then become like Chud Logic. And by that, I don't mean Chud Logic himself. I don't have a hate against Chud Logic. I'm just using that as an easy example, which is the reason why Stop Killing Games, or even the event before that, which was Pirate Software's interactions inside of OnlyFans 2, were relevant. Broadcaster, who supposedly has a mandate of heaven, gets called out and embarrassed by an audience of people that watch them crash out live on air. People who hate that content creator and how large they're getting, watches them lose the gamer mandate of heaven, and out come the knives to stab them and bleed them like a pig so they can make bacon off their fat. For every single person like myself who could be able to tell you how you should feel about Stop Killing Games or content referent to anything that he's ever discussed, will approach you instead with the worst information about that person possible, and using that as the justification to entrench themselves in a position where oikophobia dominates the conversation. It's not about the conversation. It's not even the way we're having the conversation. It's the fact that it's evil. Anytime an opportunity comes out for there to be discussion or there to be a back and forth with jokes, there is always a handful or an example of one prominent figure who is known for it, who effectively makes every interaction just mean. And I don't mean, oh, well, see, they had a mean opinion. No, just mean. Every single time you could have a social interaction, it always goes south because they maximize their hatred. Playing a video game on the internet with a person in a lobby, that person is going to try to harass your chat room because they want to put dirt in your eye. Play an online video game that is a locked-in server environment. One of, if not a handful of people in that group with a hatred against you are going to make content trying to farm you because they want to make you commit suicide. Become the owner of a foundation or the creator of a business. Have an opinion that is not in lockstep with the popular opinion of the time, especially if you happen to come from a left-wing view. They're not just going to cancel you. They're going to try to disassociate anything that you've ever owned and steal it for themselves. If that doesn't happen first from the people that you made that business with, if you were a joint founder. Go onto the internet and talk about topics with people who aren't in your group and aren't of your political opinion or of your culture opinion in society. They're going to try to get you banned and stop you from having the ability to have a life. Be a broadcaster that has opinions that are negative of the popular people while operating in the capacity where, unlike somebody like myself, who people know of me, but it's not like I'm anyone special. Let's say you're the opinion of someone like Markiplier. You try, or rather, let's use JonTron. JonTron's the actual example that exists. You have an opinion about something, and someone like Destiny comes along and effectively makes you look as though you're crazy, even though his life is in tatters and shambles. And John, more than likely, is about to become a dad, too. I don't know.
No, he's already a father. He's already a father. His, I think his son was born.
With the wife that he already has?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Even though he has joined the rest of the YouTuber dads, and myself as well, people will remember the hateful, quote, funny crash out from the broadcaster who's a debate bro, rather than the actual fallout in reality of where you moved from. Because since hate is on the menu, there is no way for you to be able to parse all of the information that exists and at the same time be well abreasted of the issue, unless it's become an issue that has elevated itself through the internet and through the Barbra Streisand effect for it to become relevant. And because of the nature of conversations and this non-stop oikophobia, conversations like Stop Killing Games becomes hard to nigh impossible because content creators like Pirate Software will tell you, no, you don't need to care about this opinion, ignore it, it's just full of trolls. Because even if they do deserve to be criticized and made fun of because of their preposterously stupid opinions, which are only ever revealed as stupid when the barometer of evidence gets to the point where the only way for people to actually know whether or not it's a bit or it's because they really are that egotistical is when another big figure exposes him for it. Most people would never hear about the topic because the people in general have dedicated themselves to outright deleting evidence and lying about it, and then putting the worst sins of one group or another onto another group, thus perpetuating the cycle of oikophobia. In the example of Stop Killing Games, Jason tries to put the fact that there are Redditors that want to bait him into a stun lock about it to be the gist and the general excuse he gave for deleting his VODs, where he outright admitted vociferously on camera multiple times to being committed to stopping the progression and the popularity of Stop Killing Games, to the point where multiple large figures like Charlie and Jason, or excuse me, Josh, had to come forward to confront him at an off-stream call where it was very clear that it's just ego. He doesn't understand what he's talking about, which tends to be the case in most people's question. When asked for proof, he refuses any barometer of evidence that you ask or offer for him, and is unwilling to simply apologize and admit that it wasn't that he didn't understand, it's that he had a misunderstanding, and because he has to save face, because if he apologizes, the greater internet will just use this as a litigation to keep shit going. Even in the dead of night, in a call between three people, they are unwilling to bend on the issue, and thus perpetuate further more oikophobia, because it first goes from, I won't admit that I'm wrong, to, I won't accept that I was mistaken, to, because it gives you a win, I will always be against you. And this is the greater span of the internet for the longest of time. Some people's jump-off point would be when they realized this was the case with Twitch in 2014. But technically, it's been this way since 2001. It was just very low timber and insular. It was a boiling frog pot. Before YouTube existed, you still had your own hovels of the internet, where these types of kinks and fetishes and conversations and topics were existent, and forms of these arguments existed, but they did not become as refined and developed as they are now. Because you can find a content creator about anything, and you can follow them, and you can like their opinion, and you can even spread their opinion across the platforms, but your favorite Carl, or your favorite Oshi, usually pales in comparison of one of these content thieves that exists on the wider platforms. And unfortunately, the only way in which this problem is solved is throwing around attention. That's the only way to solve it. The greater internet will only back down when there are enough eyes watching them, so that everybody fully abreast and aware of exactly how explicit the problem is able to throw their energy behind the opposite of whatever the okophobia is. So in the case of Jason Hall, Heart Software, in the span of 6 months, 6 to 9 months, from the beginning of this year, from January to now, and maybe like 3 months before, when he was just another big platform streamer with an audience across multiple websites, has gone from a figure that had the gamer mandate of heaven, where he could do nothing wrong. He was just the funny, goofy guy that gave opinions about news and topics and ideas. He was just a guy that made content. He wasn't a Spurg, he wasn't a lolcow, he was just a dude. It was of these antics. I fucked up my clock. It was of these antics that resulted in the never-ending process of his problems being foreseen as an opportunity for everybody to pull their knives out and start bleeding him like a fucking pig. Before him, and before him, and before them, and before them, that has been the way that the attention of the internet has been moving. I can be as guilty of it as the rest of us all. We all have blood on our hands. If you've ever made fun of a lolcow, you did it too! But there are levels to these things. There's levels to this shit. Some of us will simply just have fun and laugh at some dumb stuff, and then go about our day. There are some people who are committed to this being... There are some people that are committed to this level of being it. Hello, it's Frog. I told you that I would! There are people who are committed to this being the level in which they make their popularity and fame. And it's what makes us all so desensitized to this frequent behavior happening. And to be truthfully honest, this man is destroying his career. His inability to let go of his problems is actually killing his actual potential as a broadcaster. Because you cannot live down the fact that he is so anti-consumer that the reason why the Stop Killing Games angle even matters for Jason is the fact that he is behind a game that is going to be using a live service model, as well as his inability to understand that the rules as they exist would create a framework where he would have to create plans for end-of-life service. And in his nepotism and in his ego, keeps saying it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, during that broadcast, where I guess that $15 was Bolster paying me for it, a motherfucker like myself can just simply tell you, not only are you wrong, not only do I have more experience than you in this thing, here's a market example of exactly what the thing you're saying doesn't exist looks like in the wild right now. And because of the nature of the internet, you rarely ever see a person gain the mandate by the matter of just making good content. It's always after they've bled someone like a pig, which is what keeps the cycle of violence going. So in this way, in the alternate timeline where this happens, where I do my broadcast and my presentation, one of you take it to Reddit. You shitpost it across the platform onto every site that's relevant. Fat black content creator beats out Pirate Software. Pirate Software destroyed by Single Player Carl. Single Player Carl, Jason Thor Hall is retarded, and here's why. Clickbait thumbnail. An image of me on the thumbnail going like this. Over in the corner. Simple and easy to use. 10 ways to stop yourself from ruining your career. Why do you keep going off? A full form of its own content cop. No Cameron. Only with that opinion being elevated to the point where, rather than it coming from someone like me, right now, the mandate is being legally taken by someone like Charlie, and by Josh Tribe Hayes, and by multiple other figures that see that the issue and the topic is more important than the people who are discussing it. Even though there are fucking vipers of people, like those that created this nature and this culture amongst the websites as they exist in the first place, to even allow it to happen. So, the priority creators during COVID that begged Wajiki to give them the power of being prioritized for ads and content that then enriched them and made them millionaires, while they could just do social violence against other people. People like H-Bomber Guy, the Janitor, Shark03, pretty much any breadtube motherfucker and any cornbread tube motherfucker, but especially people like FT Signifier. Content figures that exist on grandfathered platforms like Twitch, such as all of the streamer elite, who many of us know by name or at least know by their antics. Website owners like Joshua Moon of the Kiwi Farms, and the villains of platforms past, like 9Volt, I Am Griffineer, Crimson Mayhem, Anal Violence Volins, Keffels. Oh, that was a fast reconnection. But, more or less, all those people existing in a giant melting pot of internet culture that is completely undefined and unagreed upon, with terms of engagement and rules of engagement undefined and unagreed upon, with people like myself existing somewhere within the medium substrate of all that material. And only then, and only when, the mandate is stripped from someone else, is it possible for problems to be resolved. Because actual fucking snakes in the garden, like John Delaraz, or people who used to make their platforms off of stealing content the old way, like Ian Miles Chong, or more properly nowadays, just online topical grifters like the Yap-In and others like them, who have jumped on to stop killing games. This makes up the majority of the platform and all of its problems. Because before it was Pirate Software, it was the Yap-In, and him losing the gamer mandate. Because like I had said before, I'm suffocating you with a pillow. Before, it was the Yap-In living as a perpetual victim because of Quantum TV and using the Elden Ring controversy as a way to jettison himself into the arms of left-wing Twitter and Reddit users that then allowed themselves to popularize his content the same way people kept trying to popularize, or are still trying to Spartacus their way into making Dave Rivera of Airbagged into a relevant content creator. And just like how it's not working for Dave and it's not working for Alyssa Mercante, the gamer mandate of heaven was stripped from him the moment he tried to backstab not just Mahler as his tertiary friend, but also tried to gut and bleed as of heel versus babyface media like a pig. This is a reference to him being bleeded like a pig, not a comment on him being fat. Because of his Starfield rant and opinions, the same way somebody could probably do to me just because of my rants and opinions. The only way problems get solved is when someone like myself, either for their own interest or when asked by their audience for any variety sum of money, are asked to put their sometimes autistic level, in my case anal retentive levels, of research and details to the grindstone, and then and only then, either if they're Kirsch and because they have a large audience and they're already a controversial figure, for the fact that they are doing something that's on the bleeding edge of creation, which would be being a VTuber at this current moment, or they are like myself, and they just simply live in their sphere of influence. They don't exist inside of one particular substrate. They exist in such a position where they can put many fishing poles in the stream and pull up multiple figures and multiple topics that interest them, as well as their audiences. They're able to bring to attention enough of these issues that it activates more people on the topic, which then exploits the homophobia of people in general, because usually there is a group of people who are unwilling to get into it because it's not developed and delivered in their hate-wrapped package. So, for the users that made Kiwi Farms into what it's become, by either incentivizing and allowing Josh to fall further into his own oikophobia, or using their oikophobia about a certain person to be the way that they would build up their content, and thus their entertainment value of laughing at spurgs on the internet, you've got a bunch of people that have gotten to this point where they have accepted the fact that they are just hateful people that want to see other people suffer because the schadenfreude is the only thing they have left for entertainment. They don't do enough in their personal lives, and they're not interested in getting into the game, so they would rather watch the gladiators beat the shit out of each other to death. But we don't need to beat each other to death because we're all fighting against the wrong person.
Yeah.
What we need to fight against is corporations that are fucking us in the ass with the rule system that makes us think that we have to fight nepotistically for a climb to the top. But then and only when it's actually relevant, when you do find yourself in a pit fight against a person who definitely shouldn't be here, who definitely is doing the job wrong, when it does come time to fight, people either choose to avoid the fight, or they just simply throw their lot in with the rest of the fucking Vipers, and they become a Viper themselves. Because it's just easier. It's easier to hate, and it's easier to become a person who wants to feed people to the lions, rather than be a person who gets out of the rat race yourself. And only ever when it comes up and happens, it is usually somebody like myself who is effectively a color commentator and part-time pit fighter, reminding you that you do not hate corpos enough. I know that was long, and I got interrupted like twice, but that's pretty much the majority problem with a lot of the things that you brought up to me just now, Saf. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even a fucking YouTube opinion. It's just this is how syndication works now. I've never liked this, and I by no means find myself in qualms to deal with it as such, but letting a spade be a spade, there's a world of difference between being against what is very clearly open market bullying and people freebooting open market bullying as a way to justify being oikophobic. For the people who haven't Googled it yet, oikophobia means hatred of other people. And a crusade against a person that they've decided deserves to be attacked because, don't you know, they like porn. They like porn at people I don't like. Or, you support that content creator? Don't you know they're an incel? Don't they have like 23 kids and never stop having sex with their wife? But they have giant opinions!
I've been called an incel, even though I enjoy sexual activity. But someone told me it's gender neutral. I'm like, okay, brother, whatever you say.
What a sidebar. Ultimately, the platforms exist in a substrate of do or don't. Some people are not willing to accept the fact that they are just oikophobic, and their oikophobia controls their interests. Some people, like myself, have long since decided where they stand on the issue, and because I'm not willing to go to the other side, as many of you have seen with my own social circle, it has led to us cutting certain people off, because we are not going to play the game of bleeding each other like pigs because they've been slighted, because they didn't agree with them on some bullshit. And fortunately, when it comes to people like myself, all I have to do is just simply remove those people from my life and not associate with those groups. But when it happens to somebody like Ethan Klein, he's being antagonized in such a way where his only recourse is to take them to court. Not just to defend his personal copyright, but to protect his peace of mind and his family. Because if we were ruled by different rules in society, this wouldn't be a conversation. We would just be hearing about an Islamic YouTuber basically putting to sword 5 different people for their responsibility with harassing his family in front of the World Wide Web. And lying and saying that it's okay because he says that he supports genocide in another country. Which ultimately is the real problem with the oikophobia. In terms of what I'm referencing, the oikophobia of the members of Twitch that are broadcasters that have decided to harass Ethan Klein and H3H3 Productions and its employees and its supporters because they don't like the fact that these leftists or left-leaning moderate figures agree on 99% of issues, but Ethan Klein will not go along with the hatred of Israel, that they decided that it was okay to scar his children with non-stop harassment through the internet and the intention to steal his copyright and freeboot his video with the intention to make money off of creating controversy to keep him in the news, to try to give themselves the mandate in order to harass him and to have everybody watch it happen and be okay with that harassment just because they don't like his opinions. And in the only way that a man who defends his right can, his recourse, as most of our recourses would be, is simply to then have that oikophobia and then use that as a way to defend himself. So, without having rules in place, it's just internet blood sports, but gayer. Because instead of internet blood sports, where at least you can see and hear, and the personalities are allowed to then voice whatever it is they have to say and demonstrate if they actually have the chutzpah to be here, you only hear about the person after the equivalent of when they've been murdered. So you don't even get to know what actually is the real information, because the history is written by the victor.
Ugh. It's just a bunch of bullshit, man. I think for me, it's just like I checked out a lot of this like foolishness like ages ago. I got pretty tired of it when I was more active on Tumblr because of you know, people kind of like looking out for their own and letting like situations get awry. Like I've talked about this before. Like I've had the conversation like how Tumblr was essentially ruined by people losing the plot and, you know, pointing the finger at the wrong people of being like predators and stuff. And unfortunately, it got overrun by legitimate predators that were posting illegal content.
Mm-hmm. More or less. Pretty much considering this started from there. Like, the cancer spread from where it was supposed to be contained. Because that's what kept all this shit in nature. That's what kept all this shit in balance. When you had containment websites serving the purpose of being containment websites, you didn't have this problem. But because everybody needs to know every goddamn thing, and are not willing to go through the actual rituals and learn the lessons behind why these are not things that we do, we live here now. And no, the misanthropy is not what we're going for. One. That's just hating people in general. Oikophobia, if we're being accurate, is the hatred of one's surroundings with the praise of others. Am I excited for Donkey Kong Bonanza? I don't own a Nintendo Switch 2. That's $500 I don't have.
It's okay, Carl. I don't blame you for not getting one right now.
That's the reason why it's oikophobia and not misanthropy. If it was just misanthropy, then that would involve that these people actually have pride and care about a website that they're a part of. If Hassan's group of oikophobic misandrists, because they're misandrists too, but it's not just misandry. If they didn't just hate people on YouTube and steal wholesale against people on YouTube, and they had a love of Twitch, and they said, listen guys, I know we hate niggas over there that are on fucking YouTube, but listen, this is our home, bro! Bro, we ripping Twitch all day, bro! No. They hate Twitch too. They hate any person that doesn't give them what they want. There's a TikTok I made the other day. That was about devotation. There was one that was basically rebuffing a lesbian that was telling us that we needed that men needed to act like simps. But anybody who's not devoted to them is a person who they hate. Because they don't just hate you for who you are. They hate you for who you are. They hate you for what you believe. They hate you for the things that you
Yeah.
don't believe. They hate you for where you live. They hate you for the shibboleths that represent the type of person that you are and where you come from. And they praise things that they have no association to. So, a Sun Piker, Denims, Frogan, Sean the Black, Casey Tron, Mike from PA, they hate people who will not go with left-wing politics, and they praise the already oikophobic terrorists of another nation. And Bad Empanada. Realistically, the only reason why Bad Empanada is even important is because they're choosing to platform Bad Empanada. He's bad practice, and he's bad tactics, and he's bad optics. He will not have anything. I mean, sure, if you want to think of it as reverse flash hatred, yes, oikophobia is reverse flash hatred. It is hating a person for who they are, but you are effectively in need of them. Because you need a scapegoat.
I always need a scapegoat.
You need a whipping boy, you need a scapegoat, and you need to make a culture out of hating the people who are your scapegoats. So, in terms of Chudisms, somebody who would like to take something out against me need to find something about me that they can use as a way to cauterize and create a culture around that hatred. So, if somebody were to troll my stream, the way that people have trolled the streams of other content creators in the past, they would have to create a culture around doing that. And they'd have to have an explanation for the reasons why they upkeep this culture. Unfortunately, that's not something most people are willing to do. Because the Chaos Gremlins, they don't care. They don't really they don't have ties anywhere, except for the places where they do have ties. It's like a hate pilgrimage. They go from where they are to go to the place where they want to hate on the people that exist in that place where they're going. So, to put this in perspective, people that hate Ethan Klein go to Ethan Klein's chat to find excuses to continue their hatred of Ethan Klein. And they bring back those reasons to hate. So inside of their hug box of Twitch, in those streamer rooms that are waiting rooms for Hassan's stream, and then inside of Hassan's stream, they create that hatred for those other people inside of what would basically be a temple. And that's the internet. But every content creator that is not willing to actually reach over and actually get to know people and meet them halfway, they're in what we call fortress arcs, where they don't talk to anyone, they don't listen to anyone, and they only look at information that they already would preferably be in the camp of believing, because it goes into their particular political diatribe and their particular hug box in their echo chamber. And thus they are driving themselves insane with their hatred of other people. When you do this on an individual level, you can end up creating a bigot. When you do this on a country level, you create an isolationist state that hates all outsiders, but loves the relevant nature that foreigners give them because of their perception of social standing. When you do this in a culture, you create dueling classes and caste systems. And that dueling caste system nature is why it is so hard for everyone to get along. Because their philosophy system doesn't let them take in new information from an outside source unless the relevance and the power to getting that source gives them more than what they're giving away. So, in the case of Stop Killing Games, if you made fun of Pirate Software by making fun of his past, making furries for people on Second Life, or you took Moldovi's Fig Tree and used it as a scapegoat tool to say, but bro, I already knew that about him. And it's like, yeah, but you know that he wrote underage furry porn that we read on camera? Pirate will use that to then dismiss your opinion, because his culture is that any person who's going to be against his opinion is someone who doesn't deserve the time of day, because it's their goal to get attention. And so he wields his cursed scepter of power the same way as every other mad king would, where they hate every other country around them, and they hate the people that they're already around side. Because familiarity breeds contempt. It would be easy to say that they love their own and they hate everybody else, because then they would just be an isolationist nation unto themselves, let alone the culture of the people inside them. But they don't. The only people that they love are the people that are foreigners. That's why the Furin meme scale exists. That's how a leftist can care more about Iraq and space than about the people who live in the country. They hate. To hate other people. They live to hate. Unless you are giving them something, you are nothing to them. And it's not just the left, it's the right too. And it's not just the left and the right, it's also people in the dead center. People have gone and are going crazy because they see something on the internet and they think they know everything about it. And they're not willing to actually investigate that source. They could know absolutely nothing about you one day, and because you blew up on the internet overnight, suddenly everybody has an opinion to care. But they still are coming from it from their standpoint. Anyways, you ran out of time, Saf.
Dang, I did want to say one more thing.
Which is what?
I mean, the thing I wanted to say is that, like, you know, I lost patience for, like, the whole, you know, lolly panic years ago. And, like, I've had people call me a pedo for even saying that basically this is fake shit. Like, unless, like, there's actual exploitation going on, I do not care about whatever anime is problematic at the moment. Like, actually do something about people who insist on having children around them at all times and being inappropriate towards them.
Okay.
Which is what happened on Tumblr. There, I'm out.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I went on about that tangent a bit long, chat, but I need you guys to understand exactly how fucking annoying this constant back and forth on the net really is. And how it's responsible for everything being bad. You cannot solve any of the problems that are happening to us without people having conversations. The correct solution is not to close yourselves off. It is to get to know more people. Find new content creators. Find old content creators that haven't stopped making work, that have been just less consistent than normal, and bring their content to somebody else's attention somewhere else. Because if we do not do that, then everything is fucked. It's so tiresome. It's so tiresome. And Telegram is piss awful. It's bad. It's really bad. Because Telegram was one of the workarounds people wanted to use to try and get access away from the modern internet. It was very big during COVID. It was very big during like 2018 to 2022. it started falling out of favor because Telegram groups were basically the only ways that you could be able to get some level of access to the deep web. Not the dark web, but the deep web.
What, are your legs broken? On your feet, soldier. And take that mask off. You'll get used to the smell.
Yes, they are in fact used frequently by Indian scam networks because there is very little to no moderation on Telegram. Yeah. Especially in the case of the newest updates that are coming out about, or rather, the new people who are supporting Stop Killing Games. Because of the nature of this conversation that we just had about that level of oikophobia that is taking over the internet everywhere else where it matters. For those reasons, it's why I can be more passionate about it in the first place. I don't know if it's been on everyone's nerves, but it's been on mine. Because whenever I go and I do the research to go find videos that I then use for some of my shorts, I come across the most head-ass of opinions. And even inside of my own YouTube shorts, I've been seeing some head-ass fucking opinions. The one that I saw about Mango is probably the one that was the most annoying to me. Because just on Mango alone, if you see a broadcaster get used for content, and then thrown to the wolves by his supposed friends, and they betray him for content, clout, and the ability to have clean hands while he basically loses his career, I don't know what that is other than hatred. And considering that they're putting the blame on everybody else other than himself for egging on that friend, there's nothing left. There's just nothing left.
Well, we didn't recruit you for your looks. Let's get you ready for action. Son, you are standing in the greatest invention that military science has ever defied.
Mango. Not Mango Fresh. Mango. M-A-N-G, the number 0. Mango. Joseph Manuel Marquez. Gamertag Mango. I made a YouTube short about this.
He only did that because he was
It gives me the impression that people are not watching my YouTube shorts.
drunk. You're a different person when you're drunk. First off, that's never been true ever. Second off, if you're a bad person when you drink, then you should never drink.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
The Mango situation. Like, the Mango situation is an example of somebody being thrown to the goddamn wolves after his friend effectively gave him the rape juice. Because if he's an alcoholic, he should know not to drink. But his friend Ludwig doesn't have the wherewithal at an event that he is the manager and owner of. And with people who are very clearly aware, they know that Mango's not a threat. None of them were really at risk or at harm. But they're going to act like they were at risk and harm so that he loses his job and his career as they throw him to the wolves for this equivalent of security theater. There is nothing that triggers that clearly as just They don't want him to exist. They don't want him to have a career.
The trench.
They hate him.
The only way to get hurt in a trench is to get out of the trench. So we've made some small modifications to eliminate that need. Mechanical legs, fresh water supply, full bar, latrine, cigar humidor, first aid kit, etc., etc. Let me show you how it works. You can start by looking up at the sky. Nicely done.
Inverse controls. Better.
Great. We'll be marking key assets for you to defend with these green flares. You can monitor the integrity of the ammo depot with this meter.
So ultimately, no. Nobody spiked his drink. He was served alcohol past the tolerance limit. He was served alcohol until he was blowing a .32 blood alcohol level. Then he was stumbling around the event like a stumble bum, and Ludwig was filming him, laughing at him, laughing with everybody, announcing every new level of drunkenness that he would achieve, and effectively threw his friend to the wolves after his antics, as they were caught on camera, because they were monetizing it. Then got him removed and dropped from his team, dropped from his content, and banned from tournaments. Basically, he didn't say a damn thing about it until he was forced to. And then, on Mogul Mail, he just threw him to the goddamn wolves. There are plenty of people who are going over this, or have gone over this particular detail recently. The most recent video that I would probably suggest is from Sean Fitzgerald, the actual Justice Warrior. I remember that Alex said he wanted to play this game while live on camera, but I suppose he's at work and he cannot do that. And despite how much work I've been doing within the last 24 hours times 4, I can't piece thoughts together properly without having a person in front of me to talk to, because my brain is hurty and it needs rest. I had to move furniture yesterday. Don't quite feel like I've caught my second wind. Anyone else? No? What time is it? 1:42? You are actually here. And actually, then get your ass in here! You said you had things you wanted to ask me. My forehead's itchy. Because I did say that I was going to put off the movie night for today. So at some point around about probably 5 or 6 is when we're going to start that event. We're going to be having it inside my server. I'm experimenting with having one movie night inside of the server, one movie night inside of Geistwind. Hello. You have to take the hand! Give him a second.
Yeah, I thought it would just drag me in here, but never mind.
No, you have to accept it. Anyways. What was I saying before
These have
that?
been interesting.
I was saying one night of movie night inside of my server, another night of movie night inside of Geistwind, because in our infinite wisdom, or the lack thereof, we decided inside of Geistwind to make a subreddit. Right now, Walken is responsible with the code base, and the iconography of it is made for Geistwind, but it is a cross-community subreddit that will be dedicated to anybody who is within the reach of Geistwind. Right now, that's basically DevCorp members, members from my audience, and people from inside of the communities of Ashira Drake and Himmler, and other people that basically come from other backgrounds. So multiple streamers in the future, and the ones that currently there, myself, and I guess him too, because I guess one of the mods for Dev are a streamer themselves, and Ashira Drake's content. All over there. We have created the subreddit, but we're currently working out the rule system and making sure that it's up and running and functional so that it can be properly used. It was a hard fought decision, because I know that I would eventually have had to make a subreddit for myself. Fortunately, this allows me to have the access to a subreddit without necessarily having to be responsible for the everyday up and up of it. Within reason, of course. Anyways, hello, Alex.
Hello.
Do I need to play this tutorial mission in order for it to have multiplayer?
Yes, you had to actually complete that entire. It's just a startup. It's very simple. It's gives you idea of how the trench plays.
Okay. Do you remember the topic that you said you wanted to talk to me about while you wanted to play Iron Brigade on camera?
I completely forgot because I've been streaming myself.
You have to write it
Or at least-
down!
I know. But concerning the topics of late, that and I'm also trying to get an idea of how to build an audience myself. Mostly just because I'm more of a you see my profile picture.
We all know what you are. Say it out loud.
I'm a filthy furry. I'm a dragon on the internet.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the fact that I dead-ass referenced Twilight.
Oh god. I'm glad I never watched those fucking movies or read the books.
But they're the most hilarious thing that you could possibly have. They're the funniest fucking thing that you could possibly have. They're so funny. They're so funny. Young adult novels of yesteryear are so funny and are so worth it. They're so funny and they're so worth it, and you should just watch it just so that you can have fun talking about it.
Besides the fact that a whole generation of white women are brain broken by it.
I mean, it was a different time. Not accounting for Suzanne Collins and her multiple spin-offs of things like Sunlight on the Reaping and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. There is an entire era of people that they missed culture, right? They just missed culture. Like The Fault in Our Stars being an opportunity to look at movies that were designed to make you sad and happy for the horny characters that are then going to die of cancer. Movies like Me Before You, the mid-aughts, early aughts, late aughts rom-coms that were just shit abysmal. And the Y adaptation run, especially featuring action and adventure or mystery and Satin Surrender.
Put some
ones
fucking earbuds on! You're in public!
that were specifically designed to capitalize on the energy of either Twilight or Divergent. and just the lack of energy that all of them had, the lack of potential. It's just you have to go to that era of films and you have to watch them. I think one of the funniest ones to me is the one I'm gonna pick for my fucking choice tonight. If we choose to have a 2-movie night. I'm feeling like doing 3. But if we're gonna do 3, I need to have a nap.
I
But
think
anyways.
I only seen the first movie of Twilight. I think that's the only one I've seen. But that's been so long ago, and I think it was like in school that we had a day where people were watching Twilight. But that was just that one movie. I know some people were into the books, but I never really read any of the books. I've seen the covers. I did not know those books were like about vampires and such.
I would put that on the Mormonism of the author. She was she was she was something.
Listen, let's not even get into like the more recent trend of like monster fucking already.
Well,
Especially werewolves for some reason.
well, the big reason is because they like that's the nice way to say it. Knots.
Hmm.
That's the easy answer. They like knots.
So just so the stereotype exists. Then noted.
Well, you see, while vampires are a normal group that people become infatuated with, the actual problem
Hmm.
is that Twilight was the beginning of people's fascination with werewolves and the never-ending shitpost that was the jokes of Robert Pattinson being with Kristen Stewart. In terms of like celebrity relationships. Because it would then be in that celebrity relationship from their time working on that similar to what was the other guy's name? Not Robert Pattinson, a different person. I'm probably thinking the wrong person in general. I'm thinking of the True Blood cast. His name was Meyer, wasn't it? Is it Stephen Meyer?
Might have been. Although I never watched True Blood.
Moyer.
I can't.
You gotta know what his name. Stephen Moyer and Anna Paquin's love affair on True Blood, which would then lead them to marry and have children, because they were fucking while they were on set, actively,
Oh.
all the time.
Oh boy. They were really getting into the roles then at that point.
It happens in Hollywood when you do a lot of film and scenes that involve like sex and chemistry. Eventually, just actors. During the time of Twilight specifically, it was the on again, off again, will they, won't they, choose your side nature of it that really made Twilight relevant. However, in my opinion, the overall nature of the Twilight franchise, it really puts a lot more of its weight on people loving the side characters than necessarily caring about the main characters. So, Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse is pretty much the peak of the will they, won't they saga. Because the entire film series is sold on the nature of the back and forth between Bella and Edward. Why are we talking about Twilight? Because it came up.
It came up. You can weigh in on this too, horror.
Why is it Twilight that makes her crash out?
I don't know. It's funny though.
Yeah. But it was the will they won't they nature of the content that then made people really interested into the love relationships of the actors on camera. And then when it got to Breaking Dawn, because of their desire to make Breaking Dawn, why are you calling me an asshole?
Listen, I broke it.
How do I not know that you despise Twilight? You never mention it.
I didn't know either. So this is news.
Uh, Former president of the book club is talking here. But hi, Balster. Thank you, Balster.
I always thought that it would just be a bunch of horny teenagers and like maybe young adults, but that was about it.
Woman, I watch occasionally. I have not back-watched the entire content stream. Ouch. This is what happens when I choose to put your content on while I'm editing. However, when it got to Breaking Dawn Parts 1 and 2, the actual contingency of what made Twilight popular became very apparent. Adult women. Adult women. That's the long and short answer. Adult women. Alex. Adult women were the fan base of these films. Sure, you could say, oh my god, the teeny bop daughters, they're in love. Who's at my door? One second, I need to answer that.
Oh. Horror, I get that. I know. That's why I never fucking watched them. That's why I never read the books. I only seen the first movie because they had the first movie for some of us to watch.
I was not told about a delivery that was supposed to be coming to my house.
Oh. But I only seen the first movie, and it was like in high school, like middle school. I don't forget when the first movie came out. It was in fucking classrooms. Someone brought it in and watched it. Yes, I know the Sparkle Vampires. Oh my god. Everyone in like their mother memed on them, and rightfully so, because that's such a fucking dumbass concept. I mean, yeah, but who's really out here trying to fuck Dracula? They'll say any other vampire, but not Dracula. Oh, right. I always lump those two together too, because fucking it was in that era where like 50 Shades of Grey, and then fucking Twilight, and then like then we get the topic of then someone brings up the topic of werewolves, and then everything goes into like monster fucking from there. No, I did not see the 90s movies. I don't think anyone really shown off those kind of movies to anyone. Although I went to like what was it called? International Academy of Place here. So
Mm. But yeah, the Twilight films were more or less, they were less for the daughters and they were more for the moms. It was Mormon sex fantasies created by Stephanie Meyer as a way to get out her sexual frustrations, which then led E.L. James to write her own fan fiction using the same philosophy of character development to create Masters of the Universe that would then become further edited all the way down into 50 Shades of Grey.
I usually
And
lump that movie and that fucking series together. Usually, I just fold that away into, oh yes, this is like white suburban moms topic of type things that they do.
let's see. Ow, my neck. Why am I wrong, horror?
That or just white women in general.
Unless all that was while you were talking amongst yourselves when I was at the door. But the
Uh, I broke up Dracula.
oh the nature of young adult adaptation book adaptations technically started long before Twilight. To be specific, the one that I know started the fascination because they always like making movies based on titles of books and book series, but the one-off series is not as common as the three-book trilogy arcs. So, specifically to Twilight, Kristen Stewart gets a part in a book series, or rather a book in I don't think it was even a franchise. I'm pretty sure it was just a one-off book, but it was treated like it could have been the start of a book franchise by the name of Speak. And Speak was in 2004, which was right before the popularity of Twilight in 2008. So 4 years between then, as well as a bunch of other films that she did before then. I go to her filmography, specifically when this became relevant, which was like before she started dyeing her hair blonde. The Flintstones and Viva's Las Vegas, The Safety of Objects, Panic Room, Cold Creek Rancher, Catch That Kid, Undertow, and Speak. Then, from 2005, Fierce People, Zathura, The Messengers, In the Land of Women, The Cake Eaters, Into the Wild, Cutlass, and then Jumper, What Just Happened, The Yellow Handkerchief, and then eventually Twilight. And then during the heyday of Twilight, Adventureland, New Moon, The Runaways, Eclipse, Welcome to the Rileys, Breaking Dawn Part 1, Snow White and the Huntsman, which is where things started going sideways, On the Road, and then Breaking Dawn Part 2, and then she started becoming a bad film take woman. With the exception of, I think, my personal favorite from 2014 being Camp X-Ray, Equals, and where is it? Certain film on here. I'm looking for it. Underwater. There's another one on here that I feel is... American Ultra. Same year as 2015. So, in terms of this film era, concerning the popularity of Twilight specifically in the zeitgeist, it was the fact that directly off of 2004's Speak, and the fact that she was pretty much like one of the go-to young actresses on films that would have been a film that probably would have been made for that era of Nickelodeon that created films like House of Dogs. This was hot off of the beginnings of her coming in from Speak, because she used to be really cute and really small and really mousy. Like, she was the phenotype that then allowed for women like Joey King to become popular people. Like, before Joey King, there was Alexis Bledel. But Alexis Bledel wasn't doing shit, so Hollywood needed to find a replacement for her. And what they ended up finding was, her. Then, when Christian started doing the series, she also started dating her co-star. And there was this back and forth energy of, like, is Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson and Taylor Lautner gonna have a hot three-way fuck. And this really got a lot of moms off their fucking rocker and gourd. It made them super interested in Indians, Native American Indians, brown skins. It made furries really interested in brown skins. It made a lot of people interested in vampires that are clearly not fucking vampires. Because vampires are vampires. They're not marble-skinned superhumans. And the constant nature of them being in front of the camera was evidentiary to a lot of their involvement because of the back and forth, because of their never-ending content. Then in 2011, this is where tragedy would strike, and Kristen Stewart would do. She did The Affair, the well-known, well-documented affair. Really funny. I don't know how to describe this without laughing, but it's really funny. Okay, so Snow White and the Huntsman. One of the many films that would start get made into its own intonation of a franchise, because they then made the follow-up to that one. She fucked the director of Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh.
And this led to the funniest slow burn crash out of Robert Pattinson's life and career. Because, obviously, you don't fuck your director to get benefits in Hollywood. So people pretty much thought that she was going to be dead and buried as a content creator. However, she eventually brought her career back into resurgency because from then, she just became a lesbian. In fact, right now, she is currently married to her wife, Dylan Meyer, because she started the split once they eventually broke up in 2013, when she was revealed to have been with the affair with Rupert Sanders, the director of Snow White and the Huntsman, because Sanders basically got caught in photos with her. He was 19 years her senior. There was a public apology that was issued for the affair. The media backlash story, if you let the media tell it, is that there was a significant backlash of emotional pain on Kristen Stewart because of the reveal of the affair. But really, there were multiple things happening at once. One, all of the women were like, oh my god, that's so good for her. That's so hot. Because they projected their desire to be like her onto first the character of Bella, and then onto her as an actress. Then, Robert Pattinson had a fucking panic attack. Because he's like, damn, this bitch just cheated on me. And then she had her fears being realized as it was extremely self-destructive. In fact, what is quoted as this is that it was a, quote, self-destructive moment that then led to her doing something, quote, more feral, which is supposedly where the affair started. There's this really, really old clip. I don't remember where the clip came from, but there's this band. My brain wants to say King of Thieves, but that's not the band's name. Kings of Leon, that made a song called Sex is on Fire. Can I find this photo? I doubt I can find this photo.
I think I made you go down a rabbit hole. Oh boy.
No, I'm explaining to you the reason why this shit started happening. And this is Twilight's the start of it. Like, I'm trying to find this particular photo, because there's a particular photo that is responsible that really, like, explains the entire phraseology of people's obsession with these films and these actors. I don't know if I can find it. So, there was a concert happening around... When did this song come out? When did they go on tour for this? YouTube's tracking says 8 years ago, 15 years ago, 2025, 2010. Twilight had its heyday right inside that area of Twilight, New Moon, and Eclipse. If it's 2010, this is on the back end of going into 2011 into Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1. Because they didn't know if they were going to do the book 4 as a single film or as a book split. Because Breaking Dawn Part 1 is basically where Bella becomes a vampire, finally. After the weirdest fucking sex pregnancy in history. Unironically, breaking the bed with how stupid that sex scene was. Like, hysterically so. In 2010, Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, fans of King Leon, go to a concert. And they are seen in, like, the front row barrier, basically making out hard during the height of the song. In 2010 is where the real peak of his craze really, like, got off. I can't find the photo. It was either a photo or is a video that was being shown on TRL. But they were just, like, stupid fucking in love with each other. I'm pretty sure during the same time period is where True Blood existed as well. Yes. So, 2008, 2009, 2010, it's like seasons 1 through 3, pretty much the decent era. In this time frame of 2008 to 2010, these films were so contagious that they spawned other films and other book franchises trying to duel against the popularity of these book series. True Blood was dominating on premium cable, while Twilight was dominating inside of the silver screen. And multiple series tried to make their own adaptations and find their own book series to compete against them and get in on that trend. As well as the action series that had Harry Potter dominating, tried to bring in things that would be similar comparative adventure novels that would hold people's attention. And the fascination of this in terms of the sex appeal, even though the target audience was obviously older women, it was sold as though it was something that all young teenage girls and boys should either aspire to, look up to, or take notes from. Which then went into the evolution that created the multiple films and the multiple series that then inspired everything else. And in that, at the same time that you had True Blood dominating premium cable, paid subscription cable, and you had Twilight and other films like that dominating the silver screen, with upstarts that came in every now and again, like Beastly, Vanessa Hudgens, and forgetting his name. Ryan something. Character. Beastly film face. Thank you. Alex Pettifer. I was completely wrong. You had films like Beastly, and beautiful creatures coming out at the same time to try and pick up on their energy. All over normal cable. God, where the fuck do I start? MTV, Teen Wolf, the CW slash the WB, and or like a knockoff network, the Vampire Diaries, the Originals, Sci-Fi with the Magicians, Warehouse 13, Stitchers, Nickelodeon, House of Anubis, ironically. And weirdly also H2O, Just Add Water, and Mako Mermaids. But Mako Mermaids was Netflix, so I don't think that one counts. (2009 to 2010 and 11 and 12) was still technically the era of seeing real. So, alongside Firestarter, or Fire Breather, which was an animated film, you had the live action versions of Ben 10 happening at the same time. And Dude, What Would Happen, and a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, seeing real was a time.
You had a series of shows that had actors that were on them or watched them religiously in parties, as well as shows that featured vampire and or vampire werewolf and or vampire and other greater mythologies as frequent content to consume in the marketplace. And these films were directly responsible for keeping the energy of these things going for about 7 years off of fumes alone. Off of fumes alone. I mean, between Vampire Diaries and the Originals, this was just a back and forth ping pong. Because you also had other things like Supernatural. Then you also had shows that came and went, but they existed in their time period. Like Grimm, which I've talked about before. And then all of the other show dramas that basically were strong contenders to hold people's attention because they were looking for something similar but different, or something completely different in a different type of genre. So, the same time that you have somebody bouncing back and forth between the Originals or something else, you have them looking at old reruns or runs of Buffy and Veronica Mars, as well as Supernatural, Eureka, Stargate, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate SG-1, Battlescarred Galactica, Calypso, Haven. There's a number of shows that were inescapable in what I could call the mythical masquerade. They were either about a type of creature or about a backstory of creatures from folklore that either were responsible for a plot that involved heaven or hell, or was responsible for a plot that involved a family curse or a family responsibility to do a job that made them a type of hunter, a type of alternate vampire, or a type of creature that had to deal with the contingencies of living and dealing with their problems on a day-to-day basis. Some favorite examples would probably be things like Becoming Human. Is Becoming Human or something else? Both the UK and the US version. Becoming Human. Yes. Becoming Human. Where it was first a comedy web series that then spun off into a TV series. The BBC's version is way better than the American version, but the American version is it's alright! But then this is where you get some knockoff things like Moonlight. Or Moonlighting? My brain wants to say Moonlighting. Yes. Moonlighting. No, I was right the first time. The actual series show that it came from was called Moonlighting. But the show that I'm thinking of from 2007 that had like 16 episodes was Moonlight. These shows pretty much dominated the 2008 to 2010 period. I don't know, Saf. These shows and movies dominated and held the attention of an entire generation's worth, 3 generations technically, worth of young adults, children, and grown adults that should not have been bringing pickles and cucumbers into the movie theater with their self-made dildo internationality that made motherfuckers like me think that the fucking movie theater was just supposed to smell like fish all the time.
Jesus.
I'm
Really got it. Really going there, huh?
I'm not joking, bro. Was
Was it that bad?
I used to think that the reason why the Twilight theaters would always stink to high heaven was just that's what movie theaters smelled like. But then after you knew what theater had Twilight in it and which one didn't have Twilight in it, you started to realize that that smell wasn't fish. And then there was one time in my town specifically, at showings when the Carmike Cinema Company still ran the Hollywood Connection, that they were finding spent and leftover, wrapped, and sometimes even frozen cucumbers with obvious marks of desaturation of color found in the trash or left on the floor of the theater. Now, in order for you to understand what I mean by desaturation of color, I need to go to Kaileri's profile real quick. Kaileri. I'm looking for a picture.
I don't know whether to like feel like women are just grosser now, or is like, what the fuck?
Bro, they were out here. I don't know what to tell you. Here we go. Here's the picture.
And they thought that we were the bad ones. Yeah, I don't know, man.
And jump scare in 3, 2, 1. That's what I mean by desaturation. That era of content, especially when it came to the public consumption and the wave that it took people over with. Young children in high school were more concerned about the fact that that theater smelled like fish than being worried about the fact that 2 fat librarians were running the gambit with the entire defensive line and 5 men on the offensive line of their local football teams. At least in my state.
Carl, how does this happen? How does this fucking happen?
Well, when a housewife gets really bored of her husband and she starts reading fantasy novels and books, she starts doing things like experimentation. And then, when they get into a group full of other women that devote themselves to finding other types of book talk, that's what they call it now, book talk content, or just pure smut, if you're an honest person, they get together in a group and they decide to have showings of these films.
Why not just fucking be single? Or, I don't know, maybe spice up the bedroom life. Jesus Christ. Communicate.
I can't answer that for you. I mean, me, Carl can answer that for you. Carl, from 2009, I can't answer that for you. I got jump scared with this as I realized that the women that were inside of my book club were on a whole entire level. Because it used to just be book clubs. They used to just goon like this in like public library book clubs. Because who's got time to go to a public library book club? A house mom whose kids are in school. Me, college student. I didn't have the mindset to understand why they were like this until like after Twilight had already come and gone. Because I graduated in 2012. So from 2013 to 2017, I got to learn in real time some horrifying truths about women in my area. So from that alone, and all the other shows that would then come out in that time frame, from 2008 to 2017, I became intimately aware and familiar of what the plus-sized women in my area were looking for in men, both living and fictional.
Brother.
Honestly, it's women in general. But, like, plus-sized women are very notorious for this. Hence, 50 Shades of Grey, and 50 Shades Darker, and 50 Shades Freed. Because almost all of them are stories that start off with some level of knowledge of, oh my god, I love him. Oh my god, he's such a monster. / he's such a damaged creature. I'm so infatuated with him. I really need to fuck him. But I have to undergo this ritual and rule that allow me to be his proper, true, 100 and only beloved partner. But there are thousands of people who are rivals of mine that I have to compete against. Must be able to survive against him being mythical creature here, and I have to now survive inside this mythical world full of creatures. But he has a rival who's interested in me, and he's opposite race that has beef with mythical creature. And now everybody is just obsessing over me, or is a submissive attempting to act like a dominant, and in order to have his thick, hard cock, I have to be his submissive. Before 50 Shades of Grey, there was a film series, or rather, there was a film. It stars James Spader and Maggie Gyllenhaal, called Secretary. It pretty much was the moment where, one, it encapsulated that James Spader could 100% let his freak flag fly, and two, established the fact that women with the physiology and the face card of Maggie could not be able to undo the fact that at some point in time, somebody has probably cornered Jake and said, "Hey, yo, Jake, your sister is fine!" Because they are all copying the energy that is brought by films like Secretary. But instead of just simply writing a love story where you're looking at an alternate lifestyle, they created stories that effectively are cuck stories, but the cuck is now forced to watch the main couple have their life, and like tangentially, he's now responsible for like keeping the circle tight. So in the case of Twilight, when the will they won't they was possible, it was, oh, she should be a wolf girl. Look at how better the wolves treat you. Versus, oh my god, look at all this decadence and all this money and all this food. But, you know, if you end up cutting yourself, Jasper is gonna fucking bleed you like a fish. And then, oh my god, Victoria, no, Victoria, don't kill her, no! And then, oh no, the Volturi, they're gonna kill Bella if you don't turn her into a vampire. Oh no! And then the funniest fucking shit writ to fucking book that then was the funniest shit writ to fucking camera. You imprinted on my daughter! To say that Twilight for most people was, damn, they really turned Shark Boy into a cuck. It remains to be believed how fucking horrible that is. But even though as funny as that era was, it led to really like terrible work. Now, there have been better things since. Like me, personally, because she signed my Skills USA folder. Um, there have been better series like that written by the mother and daughter team that wrote The House of Night, which is basically a similar plot, but rather, we have created a team of superpowered vampires that have magical abilities, where in this universe, vampires are chosen and selected rather than being made by a maker. And she then goes on to basically be the reincarnation of a goddess. And it's an actual nice love story. But it's basically Twilight but Southerners. Basically Twilight but Southerners.
So, does this also lead into Omegaverse existing, or is that just something that previously existed beforehand?
That was like alongside it. The
Oh,
Omegaverse is something new. Like that was not a thing that was relevant at the time. It probably may have existed in some way or another, but it was not relevant for the purposes of relevance towards like the zeitgeist of these films existing. These films existed in a time period where people were watching the same thing at the same time, and because they were watching the same thing at the same time, this led them to having like non-stop fun, like true serious non-stop fun and entertainment. Like it was the funniest shit in existence. You could not get better TV. It was great television. It was great movies. Nowadays, the kind of garbage that we end up watching a lot of, we end up getting garbage that comes from channels like Stars featuring things like American Gods. And American Gods and films like it are not good whatsoever. What is this game? It's called Iron Brigade. It was given to me as a gift by Alex, and I did tell Alex that I would play this game with him on a Yap-In.
all right. You should be able to get on the ship now. Well, Garbage Brigade is also made by a bunch of people that don't know how to have fun, or think the things we used to have fun with is problematic, even though it wasn't really that problematic to begin with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all over, for me personally, the era of movies that Twilight created was fun because you got to watch a lot of films that were very, like, out there.
I think Omegaverse just blends a bunch of freaking sectionalities into things. It's just that I really hate the fucking. I hate that I only know the surface level shit, and I'd rather keep it that way.
I can promise you, you never want to be where we are.
Okay, I think you should be able to access it right now. If not, you might have to do one more mission. No, you gotta go to the back of the ship, the radio room.
One does not ever truly want to be on the level of understanding goons. Goons are different.
Oh, it's not ready yet. You gotta do that one. You gotta do one more mission. Damn.
We. But yeah, that era of films taught people a lot of things. Sometimes teaching them things about themselves. Sometimes making it very clear that they just were not they didn't know what they thought they knew. They didn't know what they thought they knew. And because they didn't know what they thought they knew, they were kind of scared. Kind of scared. Like, unironically. Seriously. Really. Like, unironically fucking terrifying.
People are wild.
So, most part. Bad films, good films, average films. Every single kind of thing was coming out at the time, and it was an era that you could not escape. Nowadays, it's not as common because you don't have as many franchises that operate in the same capacity. Like, Harry Potter's done. If it ever returns again, it's only going to return in the format that they're currently trying to bring it back in. Percy Jackson came and went, at least the version that had the actors that I cared about, including actresses such as Alexandra, Alexandra? Yeah, like Alexandra Casio. And every time that there's a out there idea, like Sinners, it's usually a copy of a better series of films. Because they don't make love stories like they used to anymore. It's either a meme, or it stars Samara Weaving, and you are like, are we sure Samara Weaving isn't a clone of Eva Green? Of course, if you ask people, those series of films were really shit, really ass.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't.
I mean, it seems like Hori had a lot to say about these. Because I did not realize how deep her hatred was. I knew a little bit, not a lot.
But just enough.
I mean, right now, the thing that I'm looking into that I thought she would probably have an opinion about is, I know that there was an event that they had over in the other country. I don't know if it was Saudi Arabia or whatever, but basically, there was an event where they made some of the WWE superstars, for the divas, have to wear modesty outfits. And these modesty outfits only ended up making these women look more attractive. Which was really hilarious to me, which I figured Horror would want to have talked about. But I guess this is my intonation.
I think they do, but I don't know if they're not able to because they're at work, I think.
No, it's for a particular event that they're doing in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if it was the Crown Jewel or something else, but it was in recent memory, I believe.
Wait, hold on.
Ah, you don't care. I see. And it started coming up in the fucking TikTok opinions, so I figured that it would have been something that you would have mentioned, like, offhandedly. But as for that, I'm just playing through this mission so you can play this mission with me.
Yep.
Yeah, that era of television and film, you had to have been there, bro. Like, there's no easy way to say it. You had to have been there in order for you to really get the full effect. And even if you had gotten the full effect, I don't know what you would have been able to say to it. Like,
I was a child. It was one of two things. Either I was in middle school at the time and didn't know that I didn't even have internet till like around, I'm gonna say 2011, 2012-ish time. I think we had like a crappy desktop computer, didn't really play any video games well or had a graphics card in it. But I was able to play fucking Drift City and Guns the Duel back on when it was on EG.
yes. Ah, Guns the Duel on IJJI.com.
That's what I used to call it too.
Well, that was technically the correct way to pronounce it. It was either EG or IJJI. It didn't start being called EG until they decided to go with the gunmetal gray. And that gunmetal gray was really fucking bad.
Yeah. And then I think I fell off the face of the planet for that game because the computer stopped working, or I forgot about it until we get like a laptop or something. And even then, when I went to go play it, it was gone off of EG.
I
I think
believe
I don't know.
I believe when EG went dark and they required 100% acquisition for all of their content from area and um, that would have been when it would have gone dark.
Ah,
There was a multitude of
that
games
game.
that got fucked over because of what IGGI did. Yes.
I think there was a fighting game on there too.
Which one?
I forget though. That's the thing. I know it had like it was a free to play fighting game that was like arena based. I think.
Do you have any
I
idea how little that narrows it down?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't. It was very chibi esque in its way. I'm thinking of like all I remember is like images of like how I played it and how bad I was at it. Cause I got my ass kicked a lot. Cause dumb kid. Free to play kid didn't have any money.
I suppose. A lot of it came down to the fact that just didn't have. There's no way that you could have had enough money to compete against people, especially when we were talking about franchises like Guns the Duel. There was just no money that could have helped a free-to-play player in that environment.
No, even if I did, didn't want to spend money. I didn't spend any money on Guns N' Duel. I spent money on Your City, but that was short lived.
Mm-hmm. That in of itself was another era of culture. That one I don't necessarily look back on all that fondly because even though I was a child of that era of browser games, it was really hard to try to give it some level of involvement. Like you can, there are so many things that you wanted to do, so many things you wanted to play, but you have to have the time to play them in the first place, which is the first problem. Then once you've had the time to play them, you're asking yourself to put in a lot of time investment. That time investment may not necessarily be worth it.
I mean, I was a high school. Oh, it was in middle school at the time. So I mean, I get off school. I had the weekends.
Hmm. What else did you happen to play during
Plus,
this time?
let me think. So, what program do you use for like multi-streaming? Because I have OBS.
I had a multi-stream.
Yeah, stream to YouTube and to Twitch at the same time.
YouTube,
Because I'm thinking of
Twitch,
doing that.
YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Twitter. Using one program to go to those four. If I wanted to try to look back into TikTok, I would have to use their proprietary program, but I would export my vertical from my OBS. What face is it you?
Another program I have to add on.
No. IUTM multi-platform, or IUTM AITUM multi-stream is a widget that opens on the side as a tool in your OBS screen. You wouldn't install. You wouldn't need to necessarily install another program to run that unless you're talking about specifically the TikTok app. You will probably have to get the original. You'll have to install the widget, but then once you have the widget installed, it runs inside your OBS.
I also kind of like Stream Elements in a way.
Better than Stream Elements, because Stream Elements is one of the many things that was from a post earlier on the thing. Let me go look. There is a tweet that I literally answered last night. Where is it?
I'm gonna have to go look for. What's the name? I'm gonna look it up right now because I might as well.
I got it. This content creator claimed that off of 10K in a year, they didn't have money to be a content creator because it's too expensive. Some fucking broadcaster by the name of Snowcone. On one of those write-downs, they have $500 for a stream setup and $400 for Wi-Fi and IRL mod kit for her OBS processes, which is about $900. Stream Elements is what we call a grandfathered system of stream elements. Because when a person first puts together a broadcast, they feel like they have to have multiple things to make themselves stand out. They have to have iconography, they need to have a profile pic, they need to have banners, they have to have panels, and a bunch of other shit that doesn't really matter about anything. There are services that exist. Botrix is one of them. Stream Elements is one of them. Slobs, which is Streamlabs OBS, is one of them. Stream Elements is one of them. There are multiple services that either, like Pixel Rocks, originally just used to be a free platform that would give you royalty ad-free music that could be played on a loop to fill the dead air of your streams, but are now grandfathered systems where you have to pay for the privilege to have the ability to use the full service of this thing. And everywhere else, you just get to have a free selection of music that may or may not actually suit the tone of what you're looking for. Or content coming from developers designed to nickel and dime you in trade for something you need, such as Restream, giving you the ability to have up to a certain number of connections, but the only free connections you get are a normal dual cast setup, for which most people would do Twitch and YouTube. Or if you wanted to have more than 2 connections at one time, you need to pay a $20 surplus in order to have that feature for a month. These tools are designed to drain you of money.
I will never fucking do that, especially because it's so free to just start a stream and just stream and be consistent.
Well, there are reasons why people do them. For something like Restream, it takes the processing power off of your PC and instead puts it onto the service. So for me, back when I was using Restream, I only really ever tested out the connection like maybe 1 to 2 few times, because money is tight, being a baller on the budget and whatnot, and $20 to pay for my ability to be seen on multiple platforms isn't necessarily worth it. Because if the money does not actually have a value that is equal to the amount of investment, there's no reason for me to care. However, this does not apply if I'm using it for the purpose of I have a good internet connection and I just want my stream to be seen on multiple platforms so that they are physically up at a point where I can pull in multiple people from multiple sources. Udum is different in the fact that it does a similar thing but better, but now the strain exists on your PC for the upload and push of data, which has been responsible for some of, not all, but some of my crashes, especially as of late. Because that's how they designed it. But the grandfather model for a lot of these things, a grandfather model for bots, a grandfather model for new apps for new streamers that have no better fucking idea that this is not necessary, because they're going down the line of, yeah, I want to get easy stuff, yeah, I want to make easy success, and woo, I have sponsors. All of that shit requires money, but it never requires $900 of upkeep worth of money. At that point, you would have had an agent who then would have gotten you a broadcasting streaming key so that you don't have to worry about using all those rigmarole systems. So they have purposes, but they don't serve the purpose of what you need when you could just be creative yourself. Because you don't need to have a grandfather system. Make a universe, a profile pic, a background, an explanation of your content, or anything about your content. Because by nature, it's not actually reflecting what it is that you need it to do. Which you just need it to work. You need OBS to function and stream. That's it. Iona Multi-Stream is a new up-and-coming thing that is replacing the Restream model. And Botrix, just like it's replacing older bots like Nightbot, is doing the same thing, even though it still uses the framework of Nightbot to use its content.
You say it's what RMTP RTMP?
IUTM. AITUM. Multi-Stream.
Oh, I see it.
Goodbye. Go to I1. But yeah, the amount of overhead that you usually expect a streamer to pay, you'd expect that overhead to exist for a VTube rig. This is not like a VTube rig. There are people apparently who are paying an exorbitant amount of money for something that they don't actually require in order to do the job. So ultimately, if you were to have like a $5,000 budget, at some point you'll probably invest into your channel. You'll pay for sub badges, you'll pay for emotes, you'll pay for crossover opportunities in the form of artists, commissions. It's just hard. It's just hard because I'm thinking about all the shit you have to pay if you wanted to pay for it. You have to pay, let's see here. Assuming that you travel, you'd have to pay for traveling to TwitchCon. You'll have to pay for traveling to events and content in your area. You'll have to pay to get into events. You'll have to pay to get access to the parties and the after parties. You'll have to get to your day job, so that's a time cost at that point. Then you have to pay for your tickets to special upcoming events that you're interested in. Most people just go to them just so they can be seen on the red carpet. But
Honestly, it's like I don't think you really need all that. Maybe a better computer, but that's about like the only thing. And then like if you're a VTuber, there's model work, and then work on just having your brand grow, because the opportunities will just start coming in. But first, you gotta like just have a consistent schedule and such.
we and we
I
just
don't know
got
who
one of
had
bots. I hate these bots. I hate these bots so much. Every time.
Later, horror. Where the bots show up in?
Kick. Hello, I'm reaching out to propose a potential collaboration I believe could be mutually beneficial. It's to support talented streamers like yourself in expanding your reach and growing your audience. I have a strong network of gaming enthusiasts and an engaged social media following that are always on the lookout for fresh, exciting content. If you're interested, add me on Discord at Stream Empire. These fucking things happen so often.
They just like to prey on the desperate.
Yes, they
The
do.
weak.
100%.
Or the uninformed.
100%. They're more common now on Twitch, but they're always common on Kick because they don't really have good ban tools. But you expect you to be able to, source through the shit and deal with it as it comes. Because they start targeting based on whether or not you start having pickup in other audiences. Because they cross-reference your data on websites like Solinome. But basically, all the grandfathered content, it brings in a type of streamer. They got a lot of money. They have little experience. So, let's say a streamer has an income of $10K to spend. before their first broadcast. And they spend, let's be conservative and let's say half their money. Half their money just on buying the necessary computer, the peripherals, all the stuff. And they buy all of the things that would make their broadcast possible. Where, like, the only thing that they're missing is, like, a fucking cigar from fucking Elon Musk himself to smoke when they first go live on broadcast. They take that extra 5K and then they go searching around the internet. They have no idea how to use OBS. They have no idea how to set it up. They have no idea how to get multiple scenes. None of that. In my time period, what I used to have access to was the older versions of these sites where that content was there for free. So, you went to a place like Stream Elements, or you went to a service like Streamlabs OBS, Slobs, and you looked at Slobs and said, I wonder if I can find a theme that works for me. And then from that theme, you grew out your channel's content. You grew out what you had to use. I know that I used to use one of the free versions of a system of themes called Midnight City. Let me see if I can pull up my folder. It should still be here inside of my files. Yes, it is. Yep. Okay, so I used to have a bunch of old shit for this. It was a static window that came along with its own website box and its own header. Let me open this inside of normal editing program. Open inside of Microsoft Office, why not? So, all this old stuff existed as a contingency of that free system.
You'd be right, Jan, but you know, this is the internet. There are always some dumb people.
So it was like static images for BRB screen. It was... Is this all the same one? Looks like this is all the same one.
Be right back.
Okay. You had one for the BRB screen. You had one for stream ending soon. You had one that I had custom, which was what I used for the longest time as my background scape for the stream.
Yeah, I saw that one.
You have ones that were for intermissions, which, as you can see, I still use that box on the current setup to this day. All I did was that I took that overlay box and I used that for things like my webcam. It had a header and a bunch of other shit that was just grandfathered in. This system has now become a paid system because they want to exploit you. So alongside all of your scam bots telling you, hey, you should do business with me, pay me $100 and I'll make free panels for you. These services basically existed as a storefront, like a used car salesman. To get you to buy a premium and just stay logged in to have access and maintain access to that premium. So if you wanted to change up, innovate, switch anything around, you had to be a part of the platform.
F in the chat.
See, the fun part about these disconnections is that it's a disconnection from my end, not your end. So I can hear all of you talking, and I can see all of you typing at the same time. But you can't see shit I'm fucking doing or hear shit I'm saying until my internet stabilizes. It's tragedy.
What is causing it? Is it just the program?
No, it's my shit ISP.
Xfinity?
Extreme.
I had never heard of them.
It's ran under Mediacom. Mediacom is notoriously bad.
I don't understand why Xfinity hasn't come out to you guys yet, but I guess it's just because different media companies.
Availability.
See, like, Michigan has Xfinity. I think there was also, like, Charter Internet. in some areas, but I had Xfinity here because I feel like there was a few. Okay, so it was Comcast, Charter, and I think that was it. There was like those two ISPs, and then you have Nextel. What else? There's T-Mobile. No, was T-Mobile around when Nextel was around? I don't remember
Yes.
that. I don't remember.
One that
There was a
we,
lot of companies.
yeah, the one that we had before was Wide Open West, but they were charging us too much because my mother's addicted to cable. Anyways, not important. They nickel and dime you across every service for any service you need. So Streamlabs nickels and dimes you so that you can have your panels in your overlays and your scene switches. Then Twitch tries to nickel and dime you by getting you to be a paid sub in people's chat rooms and also buying through Giftvember and all the other knockoff gift things to try and keep your power user status up so that you can skip things like ads. Same thing with Netflix, same thing with everything else. Then you go to things like services that would be comparative to iUtm, but it would only do it for money. They charge you $15, $20. It's comparative to Restream doing it as well. So you end up paying for your scenes, you pay for your art, you pay for your stuff, you pay for your games, you pay for your content, you pay for your ability to stream the content, you pay for your ability to put the content on multiple platforms. You just end up in a position where you have lost money before you've even gotten a single dono or a single conversation in chat. It is not tenable for a new user because the new user experience is the most important experience. Because if the new user experience sucks, then you're going to quit streaming, basically. You want it to be simple to set up, you want it to be easy to turn on, turn off, and you want to have the ability to do it in lieu of video editing. Because why do I need to edit a video when I can just simply focus on what I'm doing on the broadcast and it's the same thing, including a VOD, at least on the YouTube side. Most of the people who did this ended up using this as a front end for OBS, and that front end basically became the way that all broadcasters are aware of what's going on Twitch. The amount of people who do it is simply by word of mouth. Sometimes innovators, like myself and Star, we are smart enough to know how to look at a bad deal, especially when it comes to a business deal.
Right, because you could just go to like a reputable artist and get a bunch of panels and such done. You don't have to use those services. Hell, you don't even need to even do all that. Just make sure your fucking streaming connection is pretty well, be conversational, and entertaining. Play the game well and not be a shitter.
Honestly, a person doesn't even need to play the game well. They just need to be a personality. There's not enough consistent creators to the point where as long as you're able to be consistent, even if you're shit at the game, it all goes back to letter grade. If your letter grade as a broadcaster is an S+, but you're a negative F effort streamer, it doesn't matter how good your content is. Your content is being kept afloat by it, which is pretty much the Twitch problem in general. If you're like me, like the show lives and breathes by your energy and by your lifeblood and by the lifeblood of your audience. Because most people, especially those that then go the real far way, which is the problem that's been a problem in streaming since forever, which is viewbotting. The reason why viewbots and bot purchases and bot scripts and a bunch of other shit to do that is that because the systems are made on a kingmaker system, your ability to get views, your ability to get viral traffic, your ability to grow is connected to how many people are watching you live. Because those are the metrics that then tell the website to send people to you more. This is where the real pitfall starts. They pay out that money so that they can buy bots. Then, somebody who's from an ad service, one that wants to hire them to do a campaign for their first ad read, which is where real money exists, they've been buying their views, right? So they do a basic lookup of their historic data, and they see a negative drop-off line where in between payments, their subs just basically don't exist. views from nowhere, numbers that don't correlate with viral attention. Just literally, you're lying and stealing. And that is why that's such a big problem. Because you basically have a bunch of no-name streamers destroying their potential before they even get a chance to start. Because they just pirate, and they steal, and they then fake content, and then at the end of the day, they end up like, bro, this isn't worth it. I'm not making anything off this. Basically, Twitch is to men what OnlyFans became for women. Pretty much. No, it's basically both the same. It's the same promise, potentially. You stream a Sigma grind set hours of 4 to 8 hours of your life every day for weeks on end to become an affiliate. Then when you become an affiliate, you try to earn money off your subs, but you're not getting enough because your views are low. People are making fun of you because your views are low. So as a X-Figure Andy, you're either lucky enough to find yourself in a place where you now have a lot of subs, or you're in a place that had a lot of subs, but your life's been ruined, and pretty much everything fell out around and beside you. For guys, this is devastating. For women, they don't care. Because women don't have to have power. They don't have to be broadcasters. They just need to have access to the cursed scepter that belongs to them.
That or just, Sims.
Yes, correct. Is it not like FM MPEG or YouTube DLP that is command line system? Because no OBS has UI. Iutum is a widget. It goes on the side of your OBS screen after you've installed it. And it functions as a tool that lets you multi-stream to other platforms. It also acts as a way for you to have a vertical canvas, so if you want to stream to YouTube Shorts directly, you can also do that. Because that's the only way you can have things like Twitch broadcasts. If you're going to have a Twitch broadcast, that will be used as the background scheme for multiple streams. It basically needs you to put in a lot of energy and effort and potential to put together content that will be admissible for material use. But unfortunately, that is not the case when it comes to this content. Because of the nature of people being very tech illiterate, and the fact that most of this content is from guru content, it's basically had the legs kicked off the desk from how often people look at these ideas and try knocking them down. You have a bunch of people who are basically explaining, fellas, what has made your PC look like this? And it's like a torn in half, fucked up MacBook Air because the battery's gone loose. It all comes down to a technology problem, honestly.
Yeah, because this computer is showing its age very well, especially when I try to play anything recent.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually... Damn. It's already 3 o'clock already? Fuck! Anyways.
Yeah.
That's all.
Flies when you're having fun.
That's all the time I had. We'll basically have to pick this up another time.
Oh.
Another time, Alex. It's okay. There will be more times to play video games with me inside the server. But if I want to be able to do the event, I need to be well rested. So I'm going to have to leave you all with this. However, that's my leaving phrase with you today. If you are a new broadcaster and you are unsure where to go, you cannot go wrong with using the Restream to Link connection if you have a system that has an internet connection that's not necessarily stable enough to run those connections on their own. It's completely fine for you to run your connections as you do. Okay? You can use the 2-Link. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. If you want to go bigger than that, you need to use a multi-streaming tool that's not going to charge you out of your ass. There's free ones, like the ones that I'm using that I've told him about. There are other ones that are paid. Use the free ones and know whether or not your computer can support however many connections. Now, you don't have to be like me, but you do need to know how you're using these tools. Because it only takes one bad mistake, one chance of an artist jumping into your chat asking you, hey, can you look at my portfolio? Are you going to give me attention and money? Or a bot trying to get you to click on ViewBot links to get you to download a ViewBot tool. All it takes is one good fuck up to fuck your career up. Because in the real world of broadcasting, this shit will kill your streams dead in the water. Because they will get flagged as a fraudulent user. Learn the lesson before it happens. Anyways, thank you. You also ran out of time too. That's the other thing. Thank you for the conversation, Alex. I appreciate it. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you, Exo Crusher, for the money. And I will see you all later on tonight for movie night. I will put up a poll of movies for you momentarily. If I forget to do it, it's because I immediately fell unconscious, and I will just simply freeboot based on the conversations we had here today. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.